getting through the night, that's probably the biggest challenge.
Pretty much every year, there's always a thick fog that comes in at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, so that always throws a curveball into things.
It's a really long night. You spend a lot of time driving in the dark.
It just throws you a curveball during the middle of the night, and you have to adapt.
Well, we've been talking about lights and shadows here at Daytona International Speedway, and those shadows are evolving. Take a look at the west end of what's called Daytona Rising, a massive $400 million project to update the fan experience here at the World Center of Racing. That whole west end, part of 40,000 new seats being added, is open this weekend for fans here at the Rolex 24. There's a time-lapse video of the construction with an awful lot still to be done, but it will bring a whole new atmosphere to Daytona International Speedway, a real arena sort of atmosphere with broad concourses at every level. More than 36 new elevators and escalators, tremendous new views, all sorts of new concessions, all part of Daytona Rising. There is that iconic central luxury box and television radio announce booth with the big Daytona lettering on it. This summer, special cranes are being brought in to lift that entire section out, put it on the ground where it'll be taken apart and hauled away as the project inches toward completion. It is massive, it is fabulous. Come January of 2016, the Rolex 24 at Daytona, in its 54th running, will be the first event to make use of the entire new facility. We're all looking forward to that.
I went up to the westernmost upper level, and I tell you what, I like my time in the infield, but where I would be if I wasn't in the booth would be in that grandstand. You can see the entire course, and like I said, one of the great things about this type of racing is wandering around. Everybody has their own routines. They want to be somewhere at midnight, they want to be somewhere at 2 a.m., but that, if you want to see the racing, those upper grandstands are unreal.
Now looking down on turn one, yeah, it's awesome. I've challenged a couple of fans on Twitter to post photos. Haven't seen any yet, but hopefully they're out there. The battle continues at GT Le Mans on the racetrack. Around goes Fisichella in the Ferrari.
Yeah, that was, don't see that very often, do we, from him?
I was about to say 4 classes of race car in action here.
Synchronicity, Bob, right?
Yes.
Right up until the synchro broke.
Right.
He took it in deep under pressure from the vet. You see him a little bit, it was loose. He fought it for a while. Now there's quite a bit of off camera. That outside lane there is sloped the wrong way. You see the other guy staying a little bit tight. He would have if he could have.
I wonder if he was looking out the windshield or into his mirrors. He got a little behind on his braking there. Remember Damian Faulkner earlier saying he thought there was oil down there from the stricken Delta Wing car.
I think the transition where it goes from bank to flat is right where it looked like it came unstuck.
And let's face it, if you have any doubt that these guys are pushing to the limit, you said it, the top drivers pushing, they're pushing flat out, and that just was one of those unforced errors.
You're also going down through the gears, so a little bit of, I mean, there's rev matching in the blip down changes, but a little bit too much input to the rear end, and it got the rear end broken loose, and then he chased it for a while, but couldn't catch it.
So the Italian has some work to do. Meanwhile, there were a number of late additions to the driver's strength on several of the race cars. Jamie Howe is standing by with one such super sub.
That's right, Bob. Visit Florida.com, number 90 Corvette DP. It's pretty recognizable. You see the logos everywhere. The car is blue, but then here's Guy Cosmo on pit lane in a black generic fire suit. No team logos. Didn't have a ride until this morning. How much pressure are you feeling?
Well, not that much. You know, I'm a free agent for this season as of yet. I still have not signed a contract for 2015. Troy Blitz asked if I was available to help out. Really excited to be here to be able to help them add a 4th driver to the lineup for visitflorida.com racing. You know, it's a lot of pressure in the sense that, you know, I haven't driven the car yet. So I have a lot to overcome in that very first instance that I hop in and get out of pit lane. But this is what I do. I've driven tons of DPs before. I was in the Corvette Daytona prototype last year, Whalen Engineering at Sebring and the Glen. So I'm ready to go.
So when you get that phone call that you're going to join a team for a 24-hour race in a car that you've never driven, what's the first thing that goes through your mind? What is that thought process?
The first thing I think of is we should have done this last week. But you just have to perform. It's a car. There are a lot of buttons. I'm familiar with all of them by now. I just have to get in and do what I normally do. And all they need me to do is just do a solid job. They understand that I haven't had any time in the car. They're not expecting me to be the fastest guy out there, but they know that I can do a solid job and make no mistakes. So that's what I'm here to do. And I'm sure once I do 3 laps or so, I'm going to be feeling fine.
And one thing that was interesting, guys, on the last pit stop for the number 90, the team was still tuning the car. They had the nose of it off, just making some final little adjustments during the race.
And while Guy was talking, you saw Rocky in the house, Mike Rockenfeller on that driver team, looking calm in the car with DTM and Le Mans duty for
brand new.
My apologies, Andrew.
Second GTLM car we've had trouble with. So does raise the question: is there something down on the track? Again, he got in a little bit hot, got into that outside lane, and kept it straight, but lost a good bit of time.
Are we seeing a temperature drop? Now the sun's just gone off the track. What is the temperature drop? I'm sure that Jamie or Andrew can find out for us it's gone down a couple of degrees. Are they right in that strange segment when it's a transition from the soft to the proper soft tires for night? I don't know. It's just
I
maybe
can tell
something
you
else.
the overnight prediction is for temperatures in the high 30s, and that had some of the tire engineers kind of talking to themselves.
Yeah, well, we got this interesting thing, especially on the Michelins. They were talking to me at lunch that it's very easy to under pressurize in the cold air, to set the cold air pressure, tire pressures too low, and you can only guesstimate what it's going to be based on what the stint was before. So your first time of putting on those tires, if you're too under, you can damage the carcass very easy. You can damage the sidewalls very easily on your opening couple of laps. So the guy that sets the tire pressures could be a major player in the outcome of what's going on.
And like you said, it will be a guesstimate because the night practice that took place on Thursday, it was not as cold. B, it only took place at 8 o'clock. It didn't take place at 2 in the morning. And so they'll there's a lot of smart guys with a lot of laptops crunching a lot of numbers, and they'll be. The funny thing, there's always recommended pressures from Michelin, but generally the teams like to go lower than the recommendeds if there's a performance gain there.
Well, the number 66 Daytona prototype from RG Racing has already had an adventuresome race. Andrew Marriott is standing by with one of its drivers.
Yeah, I'm with Mike Kwame. Of course, this is a brand new team into the DP category. Last year, Mark, you were in a Porsche, so it's a big step up for you.
Yes, I was in a Porsche last year. We're here with Rod Gerwitz's new team. He's a neurosurgeon out of Columbus, Ohio. You can see with his logo right here.
Let's just have a look at that. So, just tell us about the logo. That's a brain neuron?
Yeah, it's a brain neuron. He's a neurosurgeon. Many people say you have to be, crazy to be in racing, but, he's a true brain surgeon, so that's why he's in racing.
So you put this team together. You got Shane Lewis driving for you. Obviously, I think he's been your driver coach.
Yeah. Also, we have David Chang from China, an excellent driver, did very well in Le Mans. So it's a new team, and we're having a lot of fun with it. It's a lot of folks who've done this many, many times. Richie Howe, who's running the team, is doing a fabulous job.
So what are your hopes for this race?
We're hoping for a top 10. We're a new team, just trying to go out there and do our thing, but we think we have a good chance for a top 10.
Okay. You had some problems early on, just getting used to it.
Yeah, unfortunately, we had a spin out at the bus stop, and we got clipped from behind, so it's actually messed up a little bit of our aero. So we're not at speed right now because we don't have as much downforce on the back end.
Great to talk to you, Mark. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah, he got an aero issue. Could have been the least of their worries in that one, Tom.
Wow, that was close. Wow, yeah. And that was a case of a car that was screened by the car in front. Brilliant reaction from that Ferrari. Yeah. And going into the wet grass, he's lucky that it was just an instinctive move to the left, but kept it off the tires. Now it's interesting that going back to the guy Cosmo, adding a fourth driver, they've got an incredible driver lineup with Valiente, Rockenfeller, and Westbrook. But it just shows that we saw how fresh Scott Dixon looked getting out of the car. But one thing that the teams do some testing and so forth, but you're not in driving shape because of the long off season. So it's probably just to get their guys a little bit more rest for that and have them fresher for the end.
17 Falcon Tire Porsche is in from the GTLM battle. Jamie's there.
There was a driver change, 4 new Falcon tires as well as fuel. So scheduled pit stop for these guys. Wolf Hinchler now behind the wheel of the car. Brian Sellers climbed down.
So Brian got out just in time to go and look after the baby, I guess, then.
That was a
Get out of the car, give his pit reporter a kiss.
Exactly. We'll be back to Daytona. Stay with us.
The sun has dropped below the horizon and nighttime is beginning to fall here at the Rolex 24 at Daytona, Daytona International Speedway. Welcome back, everyone. Just over 20 hours to go. It has been spectacular. The weather that we were so worried about in the overnight got through this morning, and now the temperature is nice and cool. Brian Till, Calvin Fish, and Tommy Kendall with you. Jamie Howe and Andrew Marriott down on pit road. Bob Varsha just left the booth along with Justin Bell. They've gone to the Ferris wheel. No, they haven't really gone to the Ferris wheel. It's too cold up there.
A couple of kids out front, Brian.
I'm telling you, there are a couple of kids out front. Sage Karam, 18 years old. Jordan Taylor right behind him. We talked about problems for Wayne Taylor Racing, the number 10, with traction control issues earlier on. They've gotten those taken care of.
They really have. When you look at the best times of this race so far, the 01 has a 1 minute 40.1, that is, and the 10 car now at 140.2 TK. So they got the pace back in the car. They got to be happy and relieved, I would think.
Yeah, but when that thing shows up and then disappears, they probably aren't going to really rest easy knowing it's lurking there. But it definitely changing the guard. Look at these young guys getting after it. We saw, you weren't in the booth, but Sage Karam making a really bold move on the outside of the tri-oval to make up a bunch of positions on the restart.
Yeah, he's a really cool kid, and so much talent. The Ganassi boys really believe in him. Great pitches right now. As you can see, those carbon fiber brakes just glowing here under the heavy braking zones here at Daytona.
You guys keep saying cool. Well, let's find out just how cool it is. Jamie, what have you got?
Well, as the sun's gone down, Brian, the track temperature has changed drastically. When this race was started, it was still full sunlight, and the track was right around 90 degrees. But right now, it is all the way down to 64 and still falling. So these tire engineers are earning their keep at the moment.
Well, they are, and I'll tell you who else is earning their keep are all the electronic engineers. The traction control systems have gotten better and better, especially on the prototypes, and that is critical when the tires are cold. Those outlaps in the middle of the night, and there's no temperature at all, and the tire really helps limit some of that wheel spin. Helps you a little bit, but it's still like driving on black ice.
Well, it helps you on the power down, but not decel. And so I'm going to go on the record and predict it's always a really good chance, but the best odds of any bet at Daytona is that somebody will hit the wall on pit out on cold tires in the middle of the night. And so with these cold temperatures, and a lot of the teams now have special cold tire maps. And I talked to Oz Negri. He said, he's in heaven with the new Honda engineers. He says, but he said, I've been working extensively on the cold tire traction control map and also working with throttle maps as well for cold tires. Ooh, wow. That was close. Sage not committing soon enough with a slower car. Oh, boy.
Well, and not only is it close on the racetrack, but he has got to get on the brakes and get it slowed down to that 60-kilometer speed limit at the cones at pit in. On the brakes hard, and now he's to a stop. Jamie?
Well, his team was ready for him, so I'm not sure why it was such a late commit. It does look like Sage is going to stay behind the wheel of that number 01 team right now, just giving him some fresh tires and fuel. This is the time of day where the teams like to keep the same driver in until this transition period is over from the daylight to the darkness, just because their eyes have already started to adjust to it. Pit lane is getting awfully busy at the moment. Right behind them coming in is the number 62. They're going to do a driver change, so Giancarlo Fisichella will get out of that machine. The number 90 Visit Florida.com car also on pit lane, and these guys are all right on top of each other, so the drivers have to be super aware of their surroundings, as do us on pit lane.
Sage Karam heads back out. You make big time on outlaps and in-laps.
Yeah, this is the ultimate in-lap right here. Watch this. Cuts across And hard on the binders, trying to get it well down. As you see that Ferrari slide by the outside once again.
And that's why he did it. It was, he was wanting to, not have to check up behind the Ferrari and give up a few tenths of a second.
That was close. That was.
He was lucky that person was heads up in the 64 car.
I think they'll be on the radio to him. If they saw that replay on their pit box, they'll probably be saying, Sage, you got away with it, mate, but we don't need to be cutting it that close at this stage of the game. Last couple of hours, maybe, if you're in a chase for a win, but middle of the race.
Well, there's also a messenger system from the race control, and Poe Barfield told us he actually will sometimes send WTF texts to the teams. That one might have earned a WTF.
Yeah. Problems for the number 1, David Hannemeyer Hansen. Tequila, Patrón, ESM, HBD off there in one of the hairpins, and now the number 10 is in. Jordan Taylor climbing out, and it looks like Max Angelelli will take over for Jordan Taylor.
26-lap stint, which is what right in the window. 25, 26 is what we've been seeing here with green flag running here today. So seems like the Chevrolets and the Fords are getting similar fuel mileage. Jamie?
And it's a similar strategy for the team cars at Ganassi, the 01 and the 02. There is no driver change but for new Continental tires and fuel going into that machine. This is an all IndyCar crew, the tire changers, the engineers, the team manager. Everybody on this car comes from IndyCar, so they have to pay extra attention to the rule book as they come into this race, but very clean pit stop for these guys.
Notice how casual the Ganassi guys are. Not only do they have to do a lot of stops, they need to conserve energy and pace themselves, but it's just sort of that calmness. Yeah, they're not lollygagging. I mean, they're doing it quickly and efficiency, but they're not rushed and they're not tense.
But remember last year, the car had problems, but the pit stops were not good either because they were behind the 8 ball. They were trying to get that new Ford fitted into that car. They had a lot of problems with it, and that meant they didn't have the time in the shop to rehearse and come out of the box strong like they typically do here at Daytona. We saw numerous problems with the cars. They didn't finish the races, but also those early pit stops were not like the Ganassi team that we like to see and the ones we're seeing here today. They're much more on top of their game.
And the pit stops here somewhat leisurely compared to an IndyCar pit stop. And for Chip Ganassi and his squad, they're having a great run here at the 53rd running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. More to come. Sage Karam for Chip Ganassi Racing leads overall at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Youth out front, but experience beginning to chase him down. Christian Fittipaldi now up to second in his Mustang sampling Corvette for Action Express Racing. And Christian Fittipaldi, these last couple of laps, Calvin, has just had the hammer down.
He has, but in fact, Sage has actually increased the lead. I mean, yeah, Christian's gotten around Max Angelelli, who's just getting into a rhythm here. Still done a really nice job in his opening stint, but Sage has got some pace, and I tell you what, that 01 car has really turned things around. The first day at the test at the Raw a couple of weeks ago, very fast out of the box. Then they lost their way a little bit. The car got loose on them. They had traction issues, came here, really thought they'd turn things around. They were trying to sort of like do a hybrid setup between their own setup and the 02 car. Still didn't work, and then suddenly they made a big change before qualifying. Didn't expect much. Pruitt went out there, was on the gas, actually a contender for the front row of the grid. So they turned it around, and as Joey Hand likes to say, the car is now comfy for them, and that's a big thing on a 24-hour race.
It sure is. It's funny, I didn't really think about it in the context of that close call coming to the pits on the flight when I was talking to Pruitt on the way in. He said, it's funny, he kind of rolled his eyes. He said, when he's out of the car, he acts like an 18-year-old kid. And so I sensed they weren't hanging out, and there was a bit of a generation gap. He says in the car, he says he's a total pro, which we saw at Indy last year, we saw here last year. Obviously, Chip would not put him in the primary points car unless he had full confidence in him.
Well, one of the cars that had problems early on is rebounded, and that's the number 10 for Wayne Taylor Racing. They've had a good run, Jamie.
They have. They were even leading this race. Now the pit stops have cycled through a little bit. They're down to third with Max Angelelli. But Jordan, what condition is the car in at the moment?
It's good. I mean, we had a rough week. We had electrical gremlins all week, and the guys have been up pretty much overnight all day this week. So they found it. I mean, during the race on our first stop, they fixed the problem after all weekend struggling with it. So the car's the best it's been all weekend. We haven't done many, setup changes throughout the weekend because we were just trying to find the problem. So we might work on the car a little bit throughout the race, but I think we're pretty strong right now. We're pretty comfortable in the top 3 pace-wise and not taking too many risks at this point, just, trying to get through the night.
Guys, in the booth were just talking about Sage Karam and how he acts like an 18-year-old out of the car, but very mature in. You're very similar in that. And I remember here last year you had some pretty interesting, footy pajamas. What do you have up your sleeve for this year's Rolex?
Up my sleeve, well, hopefully a win. But I mean, repeat the question. It was so loud with cars going by.
Last year you had some footy pajamas that you wore. What do you have planned now?
I've got the same pajamas. They're from Jumpin' Jammers. I didn't bring my Heelys this weekend, but the Jumpin' Jammers are pretty nice and warm. It's pretty cold here in Daytona, so I'll go back to the motorhome, put on my pajamas, and settle in for the night.
I'm sure you'll tweet a picture of it as well. Thank you.
I tell you what, Jordan Taylor is a great race car driver. He's a total pro, but if you follow him on Twitter, he's a total nutbag. I mean, it's unbelievable the stuff he does during the week.
I wonder if he watches Barney when they wake him up before he goes back in the car. Like,
I'm not often speechless, but yeah. Max Angelelli putting in some decent lap times right now. 43 flat last time by. That's quicker than Christian Fittipaldi up in second. So the car coming good, that's for sure.
Max hasn't lied. We talk about Pruitt not losing his pace. I tell you what, Max Angelelli still gets the hammer down. Really impressive. He's just going to be doing the endurance races once again this year with the Taylor brothers sharing the car full time, and Max has stepped down like he did last year. He's just going to do the Tequila Patrón North American Endurance Cup with the two boys.
Yeah, I assume there was some traffic for Fittipaldi coming back to him, but they're on a clear track right now. He looks like he's struggling with something. And here comes Max.
Oh, and a big drive off of turn 6.
Yeah.
He gets a good run off. It'll be interesting to see if he can stay in the draft, gain a little bit, and outbrake heading into the bus stop.
He got a good drive off. I think Christian got a bad one. It's very bumpy coming off that corner, and if you have any traction issues, you're suddenly going to have a little bottle, lift off the lift off the gas pedal. I'll try and spit it out. And that costs you acceleration. And there you see now Christian struggling to get through the chicane because he was pushed offline a little bit by the move.
Certainly Angelelli had a good run off the corner, but I didn't see a drive up behind him. I didn't see a big draft. There wasn't much gain once they got there. But where Christian seemed to struggle, I don't know if it was just because he was trying to go with Max into the braking zone. The car didn't seem to handle quite as well. It's what we saw in turn 6 when Angelelli got the run. Jay Allmendinger now behind the wheel of the number 60 for Mike Shank Racing.
This is going to be fun. This is going to be fun because he's got a rocket ship underneath him, and we know he's a little terrier, and he just gives it 1,000,000% all of the time.
It's interesting to look at the best lap times for the top 6 in the prototype class. They're all within a half second of each other, and it's the 0-1. Sage Karam has put in the quickest lap of the day at a 40.1.
Still never forget he and Alan McNish going argy-bargy around NASCAR 2 there a few years ago. That was awesome stuff.
Obviously, he's turned into a NASCAR race winner, but obviously he cut his teeth in the open wheel ranks, and real strong bond here with Mike Shank. But AJ is just really digging, really vibing with this P2 chassis. Andrew, you got more?
Yeah, well, I've got Sean Johnston with me, who's just climbed out of the PC car, which has been leading. Sean, you're not used to these cars. I've seen you race a lot in Germany in Porsche Carrera Cup. But this is different for you.
Yeah, I mean, Thursday was my first time in the LMPC car, first time really in a downforce car, so I certainly did not expect to be leading this race in my first stint, but yeah, no, I'm feeling really comfortable in the car. Performance Tech has given us an awesome, awesome car, and yeah, the tires held up a lot better than I thought they would for about 2 3/4 stints, so yeah, it's encouraging, it's fun, I'm loving it, and looking forward to the rest of the race.
Of course, you got into racing from being a gamer, didn't you? You didn't actually, I don't think, win the competition, but that's how you got into racing.
That's it, yeah, I was in the 2011 Nissan GT Academy, ended up not winning, but came back from the competition, worked really hard, was able to raise my own personal sponsorship, and Driscoll's Berries has funded the last 3 years of my career, and so I'm just beginning of my fourth year of my career, and I'm loving it.
You spent a lot of time in Germany. You've learned to speak German fluently, I believe.
That's it. Yeah, wir können diesen ganzen Gespräch auf Deutsch machen, aber yeah, no, let's do it up English.
Boy, thanks very much. Up to the booth.
I was the judge that year in GT Academy, and so he was one of the gamers. The idea was, can a gamer, and Nissan's been heavily behind that program, and so he did not win the prize. Brian Heitkotter won that season. He's gone on and is running in Conti and so forth, but he had his sights set on trying to become a Porsche factory driver, moved to Germany, and that's impressive. that he picked up and became fluent in German that quickly.
Well, obviously he's a very smart young man, but the definitive answer to the question of can you take somebody from video games and make him a race car driver is yes.
It's
I mean,
working.
we've seen it. Yeah.
Lucas Ordonez and Jan Mardenborough now, I mean, they're both having great success in sports car racing, and they're going to win some big titles and crowns over the year.
I would have told you absolutely no, because there's no feel. There's, it's all just eyesight, and yet these guys managed to come through and excel. Number 63, your leader in GTD on pit lane.
Anthony Lazzaro behind the wheel. Guy we know very well, had so much success in various sports car categories, just the ultimate pro. He's one of those guys who's just snuck over the 50-year-old mark. He always used to lie about his age, but now with this grading system, if you turn 50, you get downgraded one notch, and suddenly all of the real birth dates came out of the bag.
Well, don't forget, he shared this car with Townsend Bell and Bill Sweedler, who won this event last year in the very closest of fashion in the final laps. Jeff Siegel is a winner in a Ferrari. Jeff Westphal. It is a good lineup in this car, and they are going to be strong all the way to the end. 22 also in pit lane. That's the WeatherTech Porsche. They're on their way out, so pit stops cycling through in GT Daytona. Cooper McNeil, Lee Keen, Andrew Davis, Shane Van Gisbergen.
Is that how you say it, TK?
From now
That's
on.
what I'll say from now on. We'll step away for a few moments, and we'll be back to the 53rd running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Make sure you stay with us. Well, Tommy Kendall wants to sit in the west end of the grandstand. He says you can see everything around the racetrack. I think you can see it there from the swing. The ride just doesn't last quite as long. So lots of fans on hand enjoying the fair type activity, and the GTLM battle absolutely intense on the racetrack. You can catch all of the action that you see right here by going to foxsports.com/Tudor for the Tudor Onboard Pass for live onboard video streams of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship Series from today's race. That's foxsports.com/Tudor. Also, don't forget IMSA.com. Sign up for IMSA Insider Newsletter at IMSA.com and follow the TUDOR United Championship on Facebook at facebook.com/United SportsCar.
Tell you what, TK, Hensler's looking a bit tasty at the moment. That Falcon-tired Porsche seems to be coming into its own.
Yeah, I wonder if they have a compound that's a little friendlier to this temperature.
Tell you who's going the wrong direction, though, and that's Ryan Briscoe. In that Corvette, he's beginning to drop back a little bit. Graham Rahal having a great run in second in GTLM as Pagenaud leads out in the number 4 Corvette. Let's check in the Mike Shank pit.
Well, a pole-sitting car now in 6th place, sliding back a little bit further throughout the day. Mike, what's been going on with the car?
Car's pretty good, actually. It's a little bit loose, different conditions here, but Tire Kingdom car is having the same issue, P2 to DP. So it takes us a while to get going. And in traffic, we can't get through it like the Torque-Gear DP cars. But we're still hanging tight. We still got a fast car. We're just going to have to try to get track position all night and try to do something at the end.
Yeah, I talked to AJ early on in the race, and he said it was about 4 to 5 laps for you guys to get the tire temp you need. It's really cooling down now. Is that going to make it even more difficult?
Yeah, it's going to be really tough. It's going to be really tough. We did scrub 3 sets of tires that we saved for tonight to try to help that, but that's all we can do.
Also, early on, just watching you guys, it seems like you're coming about a lap earlier for fuel than the other cars.
We have solved that a little bit. We're running a little bit leaner now, so but we still have about the same power. So we're a little bit off on MPG, but we think we can make it up some.
Well, for the entire month, it's been one of the quickest cars, but obviously they've got some challenges right now, Matt.
Hey, Chris, down in the Corvette pit, both the 3 and the 4 Corvettes, 1st and 3rd in class, and Doug Feehan, program manager. First, let's get an update on the 3 car. Where do they stand at this juncture?
Well, I'm looking at the board right now. I think we're running in 3rd or 4th place. We've got Simon in the 4 car and Ryan in the 3 car. 3rd drivers in. So this is actually their first full stint of the day. So they're going to acclimate to the car. Right now the cars are running just fine. We had a little issue with the 3 car while it was leading with puncture in the right front tire. And 4 car so far has been running pretty flawlessly. So you know, it's early on in the event, but it bodes very well. If you can make it through the first 6 hours without any real major mechanical issues, chances are you can make it all the way.
How much do you expect with the track temperature coming down to see the handling change somewhat?
The handling does change, but we've worked really hard with Michelin to develop, you know, the proper tire setup on the car. We may look at maybe just going to right side tires when it gets real cold. That's an option for us as well. And clearly the motor likes it cold, and the drivers enjoy it much more when it's just, you know, not quite so hot in that cockpit.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Well,
see those rotors glow as he breaks down into turn one as Simon Pagenaud. You think of him as an open wheel guy, but remember his time in prototype, so he's used to having a bit of a roof over his head, but he had not driven the Corvette until we were here just a couple of weeks ago at the Roar, but I don't think he needs a lot of time to get acclimated.
He slotted straight in, and the great thing about it is race car drivers have egos, but Simon's a total pro, and he's already got the call from Roger, so he doesn't need to be making a statement, right?
I talked to Dan Binks yesterday, and he said this is the strongest driver lineup we've ever had, which is saying something because they've never had a bad driver lineup, and so he couldn't have been more impressed with the way both Briscoe last year and Pagenaud this year slotted into that. You know, just kind of not just the way they drive, but the way they mesh. And you could have predicted that if you know either of those guys, that they would have been the kind of personality that would mesh well and fit in with that group.
You can look up in kind of the shark fins, so to speak, on that Corvette as they come onto the banking, and you can see, I believe it's the headers glowing red up inside. You know, you talked about this being good for the engines. Mike Schenk was saying we can run a little leaner map, and this cold weather is probably good for that. It allows them to lean things out, which a lot of times increases the temperature within the engine. But with the cold ambient air, it's going to give them the opportunity. Riding with the Corvette.
Very distinctive. I ran for Roush here a couple of years, TK, and the nice thing is when you went and took a nap, you could wake up, you could hear if your car was still running. It was so different from everything else.
Well, it's funny, you know, talking about all the adjustments that can be made. That's one thing that in this era of racing, there's the margins on what you can pick up are so small, so people are looking under every little rock for something. But so they've got a bunch of guys monitoring things like that. Okay, can we run a slightly different mixture? Can you change the compound here on the tire? Can you do this? You know, the air's denser. You know, can you take a little bit of drag or wing out of it? All these different things to show you. You know, one of the things I was talking to the battery guy, Braille, who is virtually taken over the series. 90% of the field is running their lithium batteries. What used to be a 40-pound battery is now 6 pounds. And it's not only lighter, it has 1,400 something amps of cranking power. It's also, they don't, 4 years later, Big says they use batteries, they have batteries that run in practice that they've had for 5 years. And so they're able to do things like have an override on the steering wheel where they push a button, it'll shut the AC off, and it'll shut the alternator off because the battery's so good it charges up quicker. And here, as I'm yakking away, but we've got a hell of a scrap going on here in GTD.
And Madison Snow in the number 58 Porsche is not making any friends right now because they are down in the order in GTD. This is the battle for second. The 22 right now being piloted by Lee Keane, and the 48 being piloted by Christopher Haas. And Haas wants by, but you saw Madison Snow there in the 58 involved in the fight, not willing to pull over and let him go, and that I'm sure did not make Lee Keane happy at all.
No, it certainly wouldn't have made the Porsche camp happy. They want Lee Keane to try and stretch this gap on that Audi right now, but certainly going to be a tough competitor. You see these two cars are going to be in the thick of the championship chase, I feel, this year. Christopher Haas is going to be driving with Dion Van Molker as Bryce Miller now steps down to just the endurance driver in this camp. Great team from Paul Miller Racing trying to chase down one of Alex Job's Porsches in this race.
You know, Christopher Haas and Bryce Miller had a great year last year. They finished second in the championship. That team came alive with that Audi R8, especially later in the season. Had some great runs, and this is just, I think, rejuvenated them. And it's great to get a guy like Christopher in there with that program. Dion Van Molker has great experience in the R8 as well. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with throughout the season in GTD.
Yeah, they had that great win at Petit Le Mans to round out the season. That's always a nice way to finish off and enjoy that for a couple of 3 months before we get back to racing in the new season. A little bit of a lock up there from the 81, the coffee rocket, as they call it, the Tully's machine. Had some problems. Damien Faulkner had a huge spin going down into turn 1. I think he hit some oil there. And now you got Kuba Jamaziak behind the wheel. He's another stud. This is a very strong driver lineup in this car this weekend. They got Mike Skeen in there as well.
Yep.
It's going to be tough.
And now Jamaziak is going to have to deal with Madison Snow. We talked about that. Now, Tommy, we talk about all the little differences on the cars making a difference. Without that rear fascia on the Porsche that Jamaziak is driving right now, what's it going to do to that car handling-wise? What's it going to do straight line speed? You think it's back there in the back, and it doesn't matter, but it does the way the air flows around the vehicle.
Well, it's two things you would expect it to do. Every once in a while, you see something run better without it, but you would expect, obviously, it should have more drag. But one of the things that I would think would happen is it might not help extract the air out from underneath the car. The rear wing might not work quite as well. So it'd be interesting to talk to them after they've had a stint and see what they're complaining of.
Through the bus stop, you see the number 7 prototype, the number 10 right behind, the 7th further down in the order. Max Angelelli running second for Wayne Taylor Racing, but it's Sage Karam. He's putting on a driving clinic right now as he leads at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Can Chip Ganassi Racing, along with Scott Pruitt, take another victory in Daytona? You know, there's a pretty special place just up the road from Daytona International Speedway. It was founded by Paul Newman and General Norman Schwarzkopf. It's called Camp Boggy Creek, and it's a year-round camp for kids with serious illnesses. Now, every year, IMSA does a Camp Boggy Creek Day, and they did it this year, January 21st. Had some mini golf, some championship tournaments, and I know you've played in the mini golf tournaments before, Calvin.
Yeah, I've lost many of those.
You've lost many of those. I think there was also an archery tournament this year. Well, Chad Gilsinger, I think, took home the trophy for the mini golf tournament. Calvin's still upset that he was beaten out a couple of years ago for that, but it is a tremendous, tremendous camp. And I know that you've been around it, Tommy, obviously good friends with Paul Newman. And
well, I was going to say, it's just another one of the things that emanated from the goodness of Paul Newman, but started with the Hole in the Wall gang. Obviously, it was 20 years ago this year that Paul and I won, finished 3rd overall in that Roush car, and Monday would have been Paul's 90th birthday. So a lot of people thinking about him. He was, when people ask me about him, I say, you know what? He's one of those guys. A lot of times you're disappointed when you meet celebrities and stars and so forth. And he was one of these guys that was cooler than the characters he played in the movies.
Yeah, wonderful man. And
on the cars are important, aren't they?
Yeah, that was in tribute to his age that year, 70 years old, and competitive as hell.
Good group there.
This is a good group, and if you've ever had a doubt that a NASCAR driver isn't a pretty good road racer, check this out. Jamie McMurray behind the wheel of the 02, and he just gets it done on Christian Fittipaldi. Now, McMurray, I know, races a lot of go-karts, kind of comes from a road racing background as well from the go-kart side of things, but when you spend as much time as he does in a cup car going in circles, that's impressive.
Well, there's a method to Chip's madness here where he's had his NASCAR guys as part of the lineup. If you notice, Jamie McMurray is one of the guys to beat every time they go to a road course now. And Kyle Larson, for a rookie last year, ran pretty well. So I think it's one of those things where there's kind of a mental block for the oval guys until the light goes on. They're like, hey, I can do this. And McMurray is a hell of a road. You saw it right there. I mean, Christian Fittipaldi, Formula One veteran. I could say Christian Fittipaldi's a NASCAR guy too, because he spent a little bit of time there. But
well, Chip Ganassi is not the only one that builds some pretty impressive driving rosters. Chris?
That's right, Brian. Peter Barron also brings some heavy hitters to this race. This year he's got Brendan Hartley, Rubens Barrichello, and Brian Hunter-Ray. But Peter, right now that 7 car down a lap and just doesn't have the pace of the leaders. What's going on with the car?
At the Roar, you know, the way it works with getting your motors adjusted, they asked for a plan on how you guys want to get the target horsepower. We came up with a plan with Dynan to get what we thought was our target. We had some valve spring problems at the Roar. So, yeah, that's right at about 8,000 RPM. So we throttled ourselves back here at about 7,500 RPM for this one. And, you know, we're about 4 or 5 miles an hour slower on the straights right now, which it is painful, but we're working hard on the chassis and making the guys work on the infield on it. But, you know, the key thing is to get to the end. There's probably going to be a lot of attrition here. Then we set ourselves up, if we get to the end, then we can, you know, unleash the, you know, pull the plug and let her rip.
I know how hard you like to race, but making that choice to throttle it back a little bit, how tough is that choice?
It's a lot more tough to do that decision than making dinner reservations at Olive Garden tonight.
Well, like you said, this is a long race. Hopefully they'll be there tomorrow afternoon. Matt?
And Chris, down in the BMW pit, the 24 car, Grant Rahal sat on pit road for quite some time in the 8th position in class, and they had the rear body work off, the deck lid was off, and they were doing some work in the right rear corner of the race car. A bolt had backed out from the rear damper. They fixed that, sent him back out. But again, he's 3 laps down at this juncture.
Wow, that's a shame, because that car was running really strong. Didn't seem to have the ultimate speed of maybe some of the other GTLM runners, but certainly were very much in the game and a lot closer on the straightaways this year than they were last. So they'll have to dig deep. You can get the laps back, but we're not seeing much caution this year, TK. You need yellows to make up the laps.
He took the words out of my mouth. He used to have this whole special set of circumstances depending on where your class leader was. Now they've taken a lot of that out, and if you want to get a lap back on every yellow, you can.
Something feels wrong, guys. I have no clue what's going on, but under braking, the car's acting weird. Sounds like something's rubbing on the bottom. Every time I brake, the car pitches hard right.
That would make sense. Yep. Car raises up in the air under heavy braking. He's got a problem on the rear, and maybe that bolt that's backed out is rubbing up and down. Not what you want, especially with the hard braking that you've got to do around this racetrack. People think it's wide open. Several corners, though, you are buried in the brake pedal, and it is not what you want, a suspension issue. There's a look. 49. Kind of it looked like they were coming in, and then they weren't.
Yeah, maybe he had some kind of glitch, and he's reset something or something with the electronics, and he's back under power. But he had definitely made the commitment line, and it just went back up. Maybe they said, try this, stay out.
There's that Control-Alt-Delete thing again.
Well, you lose 30 seconds or right around 30 seconds just by driving down pit lane at the pit lane speed limit of 37 miles an hour. So if you think there's a chance, stay out there.
And he's back up to speed, it seems like, certainly through 2 and into the braking zone, wasn't holding anything back. Good acceleration off the corner, so perhaps, as you said, just a little bit of a reset was all that needed. As you see Jamie McMurray flash by, Angelelli still being shown in second, and Sage Karam still leading in the 0-1. Ganassi with that Ford EcoBoost power plant looking so strong here this weekend, and they've looked that way from the roar a couple of weeks ago, looking for another victory. But Max Angelelli and Wayne Taylor Racing may have something to say about that.
The Rolex 24 Hours is a fantastic race.
It's the biggest race, and it's the first race of the year.
The fans that come here, this is one of the best races of the year.
You see things that you have never seen before in your life on a racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, pretty much hammering it, and you're always racing somebody. You get a lot of cars out there, there's always a lot of traffic.
This is one of the races that, you know, I'm desperate to have some success at.
Everyone wants to put their name on the list of winners here at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. There's a trophy involved, but you get to wear it home. It's a Rolex Daytona watch, and you could buy one at almost any high-end jewelry store, but these are earned.
Long way to go to get that watch, I tell you. This is an arduous race, TK. You just got to do it all right. I mean, you got to have the pace. We can see everyone's pushing really hard here as we see Sage Karam just doing an unbelievable job here in that 0-1 machine. Just got the hammer down. The car's obviously working very well. Angelelli's kind of stabilized things. Actually took a big chunk out in the last couple of laps. It was up around 12. Now it's down to 7. So I think that must just be traffic because Sage is running really good laps in clean air.
Well, Sage Karam certainly wants a Rolex, but Chris Neville, you're standing with a guy that I think probably has enough that'll go from his wrist up to about his armpit.
Yeah, Andy Lally's got a whole drawer full of Rolexes, 4 to be exact, and he's looking for a 5th. And Andy, that 44 Magnus Porsche was here just a little while ago, and I noticed some damage at the front end of the car. What happened there?
Very first lap of the race, one of the Audis in front of me not completely lost it, but went off in the bus stop. I went over the curb to kind of miss him, and I think we just chipped off the left front of it. Car's okay. We've got a little bit of a gearbox issue that could either stay like this all night and be fine, or all day tomorrow, but if not, it could get worse and give us a pretty tough time. We're working hard, though. Z-Clip, Flexbox, and especially Children's Tumor Foundation is here supporting us this weekend, and we want to do a good job for them. So Martin's in the car right now. He's flying like he normally does. Marco and John were in it just a little while ago and also doing good. I'm getting in about 15 minutes. Hopefully we'll take this thing to the front and stay there.
Yeah, I was watching the times just a little bit ago, and it looked like you were about half a second off. Is that the gearbox and that splitter issue?
The splitter would give us more downforce. Right now we're loose middle off of the kink, and we're loose middle out of the bus stop. So it's sort of a blessing in disguise, maybe. Maybe that's just my excuse, but the car is decent to the other Porsches. We're only about 2/10, a tenth and a half off the fastest Porsche, but we're getting smoked by the Ferraris and the Vipers.
Well, if he gets his 5th watch, these guys, they're going to have to earn it.
Well, he's got 4 for winning here, but he's also got 1 or 2 for championship. So, yeah, he's got a drawer full, but he's given a bunch of them away, as we saw Sage Karam with a routine stop.
Actually only went 24 laps on that stint, and they've been going 25, 26. So I'm not sure if they just saw a ton of traffic up ahead and decided to get him out of that, but Sage stays behind the wheel. Angelelli now assumes the lead of this motor race.
And if you had asked me 4 hours ago if that was going to be the case, I would have told you no, with the problems that they were having with an intermittent miss in the number 10 and the traction control issue. But
that's crazy that they got to the bottom of that, but that's just the technology that's on hand these days. If the teams can execute and utilize it all, TK, you can fix some of these issues.
Well, it's so weird that they couldn't fix it when they have the car in the garage, and then they can do it on the fly.
Yeah.
So it just shows the resourcefulness and never say die attitude. And you mentioned it, we haven't had the yellows for guys to get laps back, but I suspect at some point you'll get probably a whole clump of them. And so the guys, you know, like the Ray Hall car that are a few laps down or what have you, I mean, that's been part of people's strategy, so you don't have to worry if you're a little off the pace. Even Peter Barron, you know, just stay close and try to be there for the end.
Yeah, I love Peter's strategy. I mean, if they had some engine issues, Dynon would have said, listen, the valve train's suffering a bit when we're running high RPMs to get the power out of this.
Hit this lap. We'll do 4 tires and fuel. You're going to stay in the car.
10 radio there, and they obviously realize with just 2 weeks between the test this year and the race, no chance to really work on that motor. So run it at lower RPM, try and stay in the game, and then last couple of hours they'll loosen up. They'll have more pace. Whether it'll be enough, we'll have to wait and see.
You guys surprised with the track temperature and the ambient right now that we haven't seen teams starting to double stint tires? Because I know that these Continentals can be double stinted on the prototypes if the conditions are right, and I'm just thinking the outlap, the time you're going to make on warm tires on an outlap can be huge.
It can be like 10 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that'll be the advantage for the P2. Okay, it's a lighter weight car. It doesn't get the tires up to temp so quick, but I think they can double, even triple stint is what they're telling us. So that means when you go back out, yes, the tires will cool down a little bit, but you're not on fresh sticker rubber or cold scrubs, and that should be a big advantage for those guys if they can double and triple stint the Continental tires during the night.
Great lights in the cockpit in the number 10, and you guys know, having raced here at night, being able to see is important, but you can't run just a regular dome light or something like that. So you've got these tinted blue lights, or red lights is what we used to run. It allows the driver to see all the important bits and pieces that are in the car. We're going to have some pit stops taking place. Let's head down to Matt Yoakum first.
Hey guys, we were talking earlier just about the Action Express number 5, the Mustang sampling Corvette, and how he seemed to be fading a little bit. Essentially, Christian Fittipaldi, who was in the car, they double stinted the tires, and the tires were just going away. He was just trying to hold on until Sebastian Bourdais got in the car, which is in the car now, and they got some fresh rubber. Other than that, the car was fine.
Well, that might be our answer. Maybe it's just not time just yet. And so the guys are going to stay a little bit longer until the ambient chills down just a little bit more. Now Jamie McMurray is in.
And You can see McMurray staying behind the wheel. Tony Kanaan going to get in that car in a little bit. Going to do 4 Continental tires and fuel on this stuff. Right now working on right side tires. Going to do left side here in a second. Just checked in with the team, and they've also just been single stinting tires, and also, even with the cooler temps, making no changes to these Ford EcoBoost Rileys.
Since the car was pretty neutral from the get-go, if they haven't had to change anything as the weather has changed.
These cars have been very strong, more Ganassi-esque, as we see a PC car. The 52 machine is off and gone for a little ride there in the West Horseshoe. Mike Gouache behind the wheel. He was the PC champion in ALMS back in 2013. Going to see him on a full-time ride again this year with a great team. PR1 are one of the best in the business in this class.
Absolutely. Bobby Orgel and the guys over there put on a tremendous program, and I think the other thing they're really good at is developing drivers along the way, and I know Michael had been part of that, and you've seen some young drivers come through the program that Bobby's run in Formula Ford 2000 over on the West Coast, and it gives the team certainly a business model to build with, but it also gives young drivers some great engineering and a great staff to work with.
Well, John Hayes is one of the best engineers in the business. So much success in the lower Formula single-seater ranks, and now he's turned his attention to sports cars. He really puts out a great car. Here we're watching it.
As Michael spin, it looks like he just gets in the throttle, maybe too aggressively.
Yeah, I think he tried to tuck underneath that other car and roll into the power and turned it around, TK.
No traction control in a prototype challenge car. Let's head back down to Chris Neville.
Well, last year, Sage Karam and Kyle Larson both said that they weren't that comfortable at this event, but in this last stint, Sage, this year very different. You got the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, no, it's going really well right now. I really can't thank my teammates and my team enough. And Ford, the engine is just going so strong right now, never a dull moment out there. So, no, everybody's doing really well. Chip Ganassi Racing Team put together a pretty good car. And all my teammates are keeping it in one piece so far, but you know, it's very early on and the car's quick, so let's keep it going.
Sage, one thing I remember last year after driving, you said you really had fun out here because there was so much passing. Well, I was watching you guys go back to green that last time, and you were in third. By the end of that first lap, you were up in first. Tell me about that lap.
Yeah, no, I had a really good restart coming to the green flag, and I saw a gap, and there was plenty of room, so I took it. The GTLM cars were in front, so it made it kind of sketchy, but you know, we're all professionals, we got through it. But yeah, no, traffic dealt with me pretty well out there, and I dealt with it pretty good, so you know, I can't really complain. Everybody was respectful out there, and it looks like the TUDOR series came a long way since last year.
Everybody is pushing so hard. I know you guys are pushing really hard into the pits and out. You got a little hairy coming into the pits. What happened there?
Oh, just doing my job, you know, just driving as hard as I can, whether it's on track or in pit lane. We're always pushing.
Sage Karam, he's doing a great job behind the wheel this year. Needs some rest.
Two things I got out of that. A, I don't think he had any idea how close he was to that Ferrari. And secondly, a big gap for him is no gap for me if I was behind the wheel, because that did not look like a big gap on that restart, Tommy.
Well, O to be 19, right? But I mean, oozing talent. You know, it's a good thing he's not good looking, or I need him.
Oh my goodness. All right, so plenty of excitement from Daytona. Joey Hand now takes over the point out in front of the 0-1 car. We'll be right back with you right after this. Make sure you stay with us.
Back at Daytona, our Fox family of coverage continues from the Rolex 24, and if you're a fan of Ferrari, you have to be pleased with the red car out front in the GTD class. Anthony Lazzaro, currently P1 in his Ferrari, and Edwin Fedek, chairman and also president of Ferrari of North America. You have to be pleased to see your brand out front leading the way.
I think that today we are very well represented here. We are here in Scuderia Corse, where this is leading at the moment. Obviously the night will be long, but we are here in different categories. We are in the Daytona, we are in the Le Mans. We are represented by Risi Corse, by AF Corse, by Scuderia. Then we are very hopeful that this will be a great day for us.
Now this event is special for the drivers and for the fans, but from a brand side of things, how important globally is the Rolex 24?
Let's say that for Ferrari, racing is part of the DNA of Ferrari. Then we always been in every single race. You know our involvement in Formula One, but here in US you are very involved. And let's say that the 24 hours here in Daytona has been always part of our history as well, because we won 11 times in different categories. We won in 1967 with the 330 P34 Spider. That has been huge. 1, 2, 3, if you remember, has been fantastic. Then in 1998 with the 33 SP, also with very iconic cars. Now let's look to the future. My goal here is to develop the racing in US, develop the GT, and see more and more cars here in US. And it is very important to us because, as I say, it's part of our DNA, it's part of our roots, but it's also part of what we deserve to do here for the US market, for the representation of the brand that has to be always at the top.
And for you, from a pride standpoint, you've got to be proud seeing not only your car out front, but their rich history in this event.
Then, sorry, but because...
The rich history of your brand in this event.
But the rich history is that, as I say, we were present here many, many years. We won 11 times, 11 different categories. Then we have a huge legacy. This legacy now brings us to be present today, to be present with different brands, and I hope in the future we will be present with even more representation.
Well, good luck on adding that legacy here this weekend. Good luck on adding to more of that legacy here this weekend. Bob?
It is loud down in pit lane, that is for sure. And right now, though, for Anthony Lazzaro, he hears nothing. He is focused on the track ahead and putting the laps in, and he's just been absolutely stellar. I think the other thing that's important to note is you've got to give credit to the IMSA staff, the technical staff, because when you look at GT Daytona right now, and I know there were teams that would disagree with me, but you look at GT Daytona, you've got a Ferrari leading, followed by a Porsche, followed by a Viper, and that's pretty good. 3 different manufacturers in the top 3 on board. The Porsche that I spoke of, Lee Keen, in the number 22, the WeatherTech Porsche right now. And when you look at the fastest laps of Anthony Lazzaro or the 63 car versus the 22 car, it's only a couple of tenths of a second difference. And, you know, we still have 19 hours to go here, so basically 5 hours down and just a few tenths of a second difference on the fastest laps that these cars have put in. They'll all make their lap time in different places, but, yeah, hats off to IMSA for coming up with a rules package that I think works pretty well.
I think they've done a great job, Tommy, and not only have they done a great job in general, but they've got very specific AOP changes for this racetrack, because Daytona is unlike anything else. And what they did, they didn't base these changes on the last race of last year. They based it somewhat on that, but also what we saw here 12 months ago. A lot of people said, for example, how did the GTD Turner Z4 get this massive kind of bonus in terms of performance, having just won the championship? Well, when they were here last year, that car just does not do well on the super speedway, so they got a lot back, but they still didn't have what they had at the beginning of last year. So these changes that we're looking at right now was so that all of these cars, as you said, Brian, are competitive at what is our biggest race, which is really important for the teams.
And here we see one of those cars, you know, again, like in GT Le Mans, you got rear engine, front engine, and mid engine all arriving at within a tenth or two of the same lap time. And so now here we have the reigning GTLM champ, Kuno Whitmer, and obviously with Dodge getting out of the Viper program, it's suddenly the day after they won the championship. It's, you know, for me, having close ties to both Kuno and the team, it's nice to see them pick up, and at least obviously TI Automotive came on board, but so they've got one car for the full season with Ben Keating and Jerome Leekmolen, but now they've got a second car for the Patrón North American Endurance Cup. And so, you know, it seemed cruel for a guy to win the title and then be scrapping for a ride, but they've got the cars running third and fourth right now in GTD. The cars look good in their new liveries.
Well, you're an inside guy there. I mean, being involved in the program in the past, so tell me about the rumors that we could see one of the Vipers at Le Mans in GTM form.
They're pretty tight-lipped. I think they're trying. I mean, the window's closing because the invites go out. Look at that. And there's Ben in the other car chasing, you know.
I think the entries are next week.
Yeah, the entries. So no one would really. I didn't want to put him on a spot and ask, but I gathered that it's a long shot at this point.
I know they would really like to go. The team is really kind of still together, and all the personnel is available. What a way to go out, win the championship one year, go to Le Mans the next and win there. Be a little better pill to swallow if you could do that. It's a little bit bitter right now, but hey, here at the Rolex 24, some great racing going on. Stay with us. ride on board with Joey Hand as he enters the International Horseshoe at Daytona International Speedway. It's the Rolex 24, and welcome back, everyone. And for Joey Hand, he has a Rolex on his wrist. He earned it in 2010 with Scott Pruitt, Memo Rojas, and Graham Rahal in a 01 prototype, and he'd like nothing more than to gain another one, especially now that he's going to be a full-time driver with Scott Pruitt for the remainder of the season here at Chip Ganassi Racing. And you got to feel like, we talked about this a little bit earlier, that pairing is going to be a really solid one, not only because of the talent levels involved with those two drivers. They've got a very similar personality. It's kind of ignited a fire underneath Scott Pruitt because he's got a driver who's really going to push him hard. And for Joey Hand, he's got a mentor to look up to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Scott admits that he's in the twilight of his career. Finally, he admits that in his age. And he's still on top of his game, but he's looking to mentor someone. Not that Joey Hand needs a lot of mentoring. He's had so much success in his own right, but this is a new era for Joey, moving away from BMW over to the Ford camp with Chip Ganassi Racing. He's excited about this change. I mean, I think coming from DTM, he didn't have the best of times over there, gave it 1,000,000%, traveling a lot to Europe every couple of weeks. It was hard on him, hard on the family, but DTM is a weird animal. I spent a few weekends over there observing, and it's a really tough series. It's like Formula One with tin tops, TK, as you know, and didn't get the results he was looking for, and I think this is just a breath of fresh air for him to come back, be back in a car that you can see is obviously capable of winning this motor race here today as he runs another really good lap of 40.3, just a couple of tenths off the fastest lap of the race.
And I mean, the race when he ran with Ganassi in 2011 when they won was really a breakout year for him. I'm not sure if that's part of what led to him going over in DTM, but I spent a long time talking with Joey at the test. I said, what'd you learn over there? He says, I learned I want to race in America. And he was pretty frank. You said it's a weird beast. Because they're 8-car manufacturer teams, he said, based on how you qualify, they will assign you. If you're the 8th fastest BMW, you will get the 8th best strategy they can think of. They put everybody on different strategies, and if you're the 8th, and so it's sort of one of these things that he's excited to be with a guy. All Chip Ganassi wants to do is have that car win. So everyone's interests are aligned here, and you can tell like he's invigorated from being in a
and
top-notch situation.
Yeah, the 911 is now in. Mark Lieb. Looks like a routine stop down there. Fuel going in, just waiting for that last little bit, and out he goes. But, you know, you talk about all the traveling involved, and you talk about how intense and how close the series is. Saw Michael Andretti try to do it with Formula One. We've seen other drivers try to go back and forth. And when you live on one side of the world and try to race on the other, I don't care how many days early you get there and everything else, if it does affect you, even just a little bit, you talked about how close it is. You've got a wife and kids back here in the States. You're flying back and forth. If you've lost a 1/10 of a second, you may have lost 5 grid positions.
Joey made all of the adjustments. I mean, the race weekends when he first went there were 3-day race events in terms of proper track time on Friday. Then it turned into just a Rolex, so it was a 2-day weekend. He'd go in a day earlier, go to the shop, meet with the team, meet with the engineers. So he felt fresh, but if you're giving up anything, I mean, half a tenth over there could be 5 or 6 spots on the grid. It's crazy. It's like looking at a grid for a short track NASCAR race. I mean, it's literally hundreds and thousands between each position.
Take a look at the #1, Ryan Dial behind the wheel of the Tequila Patrón ESM entry, brand new HPD chassis. Chris, you've got more?
Oh yeah, Brian, just a couple hours ago we saw the sister car, the #2, pull back at the garage, and the team saying it seems like it was probably the same issue that they've had with these cars, just that motor expired. That's the 8th that they've seen in the last couple months. But I checked in with team manager Rob Hill about the #1 car, and he said, hey, right now we're actually kind of happy because this is the most time since the drop of the green that we've put on that car. We've tried to do some testing, but we just haven't really put that many laps on it. So right now we're pretty happy. We're putting some miles on the car. We're learning about it. We don't have the pace, but if we can keep that car out there, maybe around hour 16 or so, we'll actually start trying to tune the car and see if we can get some more speed out of it. But he said right now the biggest thing, we've got to put laps on these brand new cars.
It's all about track time. It's all about learning. But Ryan Dial is another one of these guys that may not be a household name, but it speaks to the incredible talent that is in this race. When you look at his resume, he's won Sebring, he's won overall here, he's won at Le Mans, he's won at Petit Le Mans, he's won in open wheel cars. I mean, the guy has done it all, and it just shows you that the level of talent that exists, whether it's in a prototype or a GT car here, is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, you talk about a breakout. Yeah, I mean, he won Daytona back in 2010, but I think 2012 was his breakout season. He had 21 podiums out of 27 races around the world with the P2 entry that they had, and also here in the prototype in the Grand Am Championship. So the boy can get the job done. He's had a little bit of a lean couple of years, but I mean, this program looks great. I mean, they got the cars so late. Speaking of Robin Hill, he said we're really about 8 or 9 weeks behind where we wanted to be, and had a lot of, I said gearbox issues earlier in the show. It was actually bell housing issues where they had some sand from the casting getting into the system. They were popping motors left, right, and center. So hasn't been a happy couple of months for this group trying to get these cars up to speed.
I talked with Gary Nelson from Action Express, and in the context of talking about his drivers, he rates João Barbosa as the top sports car driver on earth, and he thinks his second and third are as good as anybody else's number one. The one guy he did single out, he said, was Ryan Dial. Is a guy, he says, that guy, you know, when everything's right, or not even when everything's right, he says he seems to be quick all the time.
Mark Wilkins is pretty quick in the number 54 from Core Autosport. He's a guy that fills in the endurance races with them, but then goes and runs in a sedan in the World Challenge Series and wins races over there, slots right into the seat perfectly over here, and does a great job for Core. He was a part of the team that won here last year, and it's just another one of those guys. You know, I mean, you looked at it, we talked about over 200 drivers here this weekend, and you can just run down the resume of a large percentage of these guys, and it's very, very impressive.
Well, he's one of these guys that is literally plug and play. I mean, he's just doing 1 or 2 events a year, but you just put him in and he just gets the job done. He's one of the few drivers who have won Daytona in class, certainly in Sebring, at Petit Le Mans. But, you know, he hasn't run a PC car since last year, but the team knows he's just going to come in. He has zero ego, no baggage, and he can get the job done. I mean, last year he was one of the last within a 10th or 2 of Colin Brown, who's their lead driver, and the team afterwards said, we just can't believe the pace that he can run. But he does it in his own way. He'll gradually get up to speed. Hasn't had a lot of time in the car prior to the green flag, but he'll find a rhythm right now for sure.
63 now in the pits. Anthony Lazaro has come in. That's given the lead to Lee Keene out on the racetrack. So looks like a driver change going on, and the new tires will move on, and those Continentals will be cold when they head out on the racetrack, and that's where they're going to have to be so careful. The new driver, you're going to have to build up to speed in the first several laps. Are going to be like they're on ice as the tires wait to come up to temperature and pressure.
And the toughest corner on this racetrack, Tommy, is pit out.
Yeah, it is. I wouldn't be surprised if some guys are taking their tires to their motorhomes with them. You're not allowed tire warmers, but
well, I was thinking the same thing. If they're sitting in the motorhome and the heater's on, it just happens to be 90 degrees inside your motorhome.
I guarantee you someone's thought of that.
Yeah, I guarantee you they have as well. As the 63 now heads out.
Right here, you just can't go slow enough. Because suddenly you got the steering input and it starts to get some front end wash.
Here.
I don't remember the year, but I remember a guy named Jeff Gordon running into that wall in Wayne Taylor's prototype.
There's been many good ones. Jamie McMurray did it a couple of years ago and whacked the rear end, cost him a little bit of repair, and ultimately they lost the transmission in the car, or the diff in the car. So you have to be careful. The best in the business literally have been caught out with that corner. Pit out.
Jonathan Bomarito in the Viper last year in the middle of the night.
It looks like, I mean, from the high shot that we show the cars leaving, it looks like you've got plenty of room, and from the car, it feels like you're driving through a single garage door.
During the 1995 race, Jack Roush said, write out a list of things to think of at Daytona. One of the things is you always exit, if you break down, you always exit to the left side of the track because that's where they can get at you and tow you back. You always have money in your driver's suit, all these things. My list, the first thing I said was do not crash leaving the pits on cold tires. The middle of the list, I put do not crash leaving the pits on cold tires. And the last item on the list was do not crash leaving the pit on cold tires. And we actually, one of our guys that year hit the pits leaving on cold tires. And I think because of that list, he didn't want to say anything. And so he waited a few laps. He got a weird vibration. The vibration was from the Armco imprint on the wheel outer.
Don't know how that happened.
Lee Keene is coming to the pit road. There will be a driver change in the 22 WeatherTech Porsche. They couldn't tell who was getting in. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Andrew Davis because he wasn't tall enough. It may be Cooper McNeil because there didn't seem to be a lot of height differential between the two, and Lee and Cooper look like they could start a basketball team.
And Shane's a big guy.
Yeah, Shane's a big guy too, so it could be Shane. Ryan Briscoe now out in front of the GTLM category in his Corvette. It's Joey Hand who leads overall 4 classes of cars, all running for that Rolex watch here at the Rolex 24 of Daytona. The Austin Hatcher Foundation is another one of the proud charities involved with IMSA, and it works with The TUDOR United SportsCar Championship and Continental Tire SportsCar Challenge drivers try to help erase the effects of pediatric cancer, truly one of the cruelest diseases that I can think of. And a lot of the drivers go and visit the pediatric centers, visit the kids, and see Simon Pagino there, and Antonio Garcia, Joey Hand making the Pinewood Derby cars. All those guys have kids of their own, and I think it touches you just that much more deeper when you look and you go home and you hug your kids and you realize how cruel life can be. But it's just another great charity, another great thing to be a part of. It's another great thing that IMSA is involved in. The other great thing that IMSA has, some spectacular racing, and there it is at GTLM.
Oh, Dirk Werner is putting the pressure on Ryan Briscoe here. He's locked him up right in the very same corner just one lap ago. And look at that little tap, maybe.
Hey, I'm closer now.
See how they stack up here on the banking, TK. This has been Z4's downfall the last couple of seasons, or last year, should I say. Just doesn't really cut through the air, but has great downforce, as you know.
Even in the draft, was not able to hang on. Look at him coming back, though.
I don't know. I mean,
they've made some changes. That front end, it's hard to see here, but it's a little bit more rounded. It looks more bulbous, sort of like underneath what you'd call where the bumper cover would be on the front end. But they're saying that extricates the air a little bit better and more efficiently out from underneath the car. They're twisting the motor a little bit high. They don't need a lot, but they just need a couple of miles an hour. The lap time has been there. It's just the raceability of the car. They seem to get swamped on restarts. If they suddenly get packed up, they don't have anything to go with.
Towards the second half of the straightaway, look at that. The middle part, the Corvette gaps, and then towards the end.
Watch this. He's going to be deep on the brakes here. Let's see what he can do.
Look at him glow. Not going to get it done. You see the front brakes much more red in color because you're going to use more front brakes as they dive in there. Heavy on the weight moves to the front. But I got to believe, to me, Tommy, I'm kind of with you. I think the Corvette has the mid-range kind of in that areas where it pulls out and maybe the little mid-speed corners. The low-speed corners, the BMW hangs right there, and the top speed doesn't seem to be that much different.
He's catching the draft a little bit, so that obviously helps things for him. But certainly it seems a lot closer. Might get split here with the Crone trying to make his way through. Alex Brundle behind the wheel right now in the number 57 machine. He's hoping to do maybe a couple more races. I think the jury's still out in terms of who exactly Nick Johnson and Tracy Crone will utilize as teammates. They're going to be doing Daytona, Sebring, ELMS.
From Brundle. Porsche wants in on the fun.
Yeah, that's the 912, I believe.
Yep, it is.
And he's several laps down, so he's not in the fight. So right now, Dirk Werner's going to know that. They're going to tell him on the radio, let him go, let him go. See if you can't do something with it.
He's about to get a lap back under green if he can get in front of the Corvette. So
he's going to be pushing. Those laps are critical.
And this right now, as they come out of there, you can see that mid-speed area is where the Porsche really is strong as well. It sits down with that engine in the back, gets a good launch off the corner. And it's a shame Werner not able to stay with him as they came on to the super speedway. No draft there.
I wasn't on the air when you at the start. I was watching on TV down in the pits. Could not believe it.
Yeah.
The 912 in the pit area.
Unbelievable, right?
Now the BMW right at the end comes back onto the back bumper of the Porsche. We saw the Porsche with a big leap off of the bus stop.
Yeah.
I don't know about this top speed deal.
No, but it's changed. They've done adjustments, and it seems to be working. I mean, I think the series has given them a little bit of AOP, adjustment of performance, and with the changes they've done themselves to the car with the engine and the aero, maybe it's enough to get them back in the mix again this year. When winless last year,
I think you might still hear them say they don't have enough top speed.
Well, at a certain point of the straightaway, they're getting gapped, so it's easy. In their mind, that's all they remember.
Yeah.
Hey, he told me. They forget the part when they close on them at the end of the straightaway.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, 912 trying to get the lap back has gotten past Werner. Porsche's strong in GTLM. They've also been very strong in GTD.
I'll tell you what, if you like GT racing, this is as good as it gets. I mean, the heavyweights, both in GTLM and the quasi factor, the more privateer guys in GTD.
When we talk about GTD and the strength of the Porsches there, let's check in with Chris.
Well, Brian Lee Keem won the GT Championship in 2009 and 2011. I bet those years he was even complaining about top speed. Lee, right now you guys have been cycling through pit stops, and that car I think you were in second place or so before we started cycling through pit stops. Right now, you guys are in a good spot, but that Viper is a fast car in this class. You guys are trying to chase it down.
Yeah, the Viper looks like the car this year for sure. We're not the best in the infield, and we're not the fastest on the straightaways, but we're somewhere in between. We got a really reliable team, Alex Strobe Racing. We got a really good WeatherTech Porsche. So we're just kind of putting laps together right now. Cooper's in the car. Really happy to have Andrew Davison in the car with us, and Shane Van Gisbergen in his back. So we got a good group of guys in the car, over the wall, and we're having fun right now.
Where do you guys need to find some speed to take it to the Viper?
I haven't been around it yet, but I know it's great on the brakes and probably in the infield. I was looking at it on TV earlier, and you could see both sides of it, and the Porsche was right in front of it, so the thing's just so wide. It's got so much grip and so much grunt. But we might have something up our sleeves. We'll see what we can do.
Lee Keen's racked up a lot of wins in the Rolex series, and he's still looking for his first win here at the Rolex 24.
This is what it's all about right now. You heard Lee Keen say it. We got to just put our laps in, put our laps in. We've heard that same thought echoed by other teams and other drivers. Let's get our laps in right now, and we'll give it a big push at the end. We'll see how it turns out. Stay with us. Looking down onto pit lane here at Daytona, you see the Rolex clock that keeps track of the time of the race, and that's going to be important for points, not only in this race at the end, but in the Tequila Patrón North America Endurance Cup.
The Patrón Endurance Cup is obviously, takes the signature big endurance races in America with Daytona 24-hour race, Sebring 12, Watkins Glen, and also Petit Le Mans.
It's a great championship within a championship. Certainly, with Tequila Patrón's our sponsor, and they sponsor it makes it even that much more significant. But to pick some of the 4 best endurance races in the world, combine them into one little championship, I think is huge.
They're just the best tracks, and the amount of time that we have to spend in the cars, and what that does to the team and the drivers. It's a true championship of endurance, and it'll be a lot of fun, and hopefully we have a chance of winning it this year.
I really got into racing to do endurance racing. So for me, the NAEC is part of the pinnacle of that. To go to all the marquee events, the 24-hour, the 12-hour, 10, and 6, it's really amazing.
And certainly for us, we put an extra emphasis just on those 4. So it's an exciting 4-race championship.
For sure, one of the best championships, I think, globally, and happy that our sponsor Patrón is backing it, and we'll go try getting the victory.
There's a look at it. 4 races, 52 hours of competition. It starts here at the Rolex 24, and the points awarded throughout the event at the 6-hour mark here. $100,000 for GTLM and Prototype, another 50 grand apiece for Prototype Challenge and GTD. The 0-1 on pit road. Chris?
Well, Brian, you can see Joey Hannon at stop here, going to do 4 Continental tires, a load of fuel. Didn't clean off the grill, which I'm surprised. A lot of debris up there, and also a big scratch down the right-hand side of the car. So obviously, someone in that car got into somebody out there, but checking in with both the 0-1 and the 0-2, both those teams saying they haven't made any adjustments to these cars, even with the temps as low as they are.
Well, we didn't see who made the scratch, but Sage Karam could have done more than that if it hadn't worked out some of what it was that he was trying to do. He had some great moves out on the racetrack, but he was awfully close to some problems out there. Speaking of problems, the 57 now having an issue.
Yeah,
Alex
he's only
Brundle.
9 laps into this stint, so certainly not fuel related, you wouldn't think, but he makes it back to pit lane.
Ligier chassis, which is what Mike Shank's team is running, but a different power plant in the back. This is a Judd engine in the back. It's an HPD for Mike Shank. Understand the 5 car, Sebastian Bourdais, now behind the wheel for Action Express. He's been in and out, and there's a look at the number 10, Max Angelelli, who's taken over the point.
Yeah, and I mean, we're hearing that the 5 car with Bourdais only took fuel. So we know that Christian struggled when he double stinted, so we'll have to see now the cooler temperatures whether it gets him into the window where it's effective to not take an extra set of tires. Certainly on these opening laps, after you've made the pit stop, is going to be to your advantage in terms of you don't have to get the tires up to 10, but do they fall off at the end of the second stint?
I was going to comment at the time. It showed, and here we see the 90 car leaving the pits. It looks like that's Westbrook on board. So I was going to say, it showed the maturity of Christian Fittipaldi that he let those guys go, didn't chase too hard with the worn tires. Yeah, this is what I've got. And so, you know, it would be easy to say, you know, I don't want to do that again. But if he lost less than the 10 seconds you're going to lose on the cold ones, even though it's frustrating because it's like you're bleeding out slowly versus taking your pain all at once. And then, but the other thing is it just shows the experience of that team, because if the driver says, listen, I don't want to do that, you'd be reluctant to maybe give it another go when it gets colder and maybe miss out on it. So it's you know, really showing their maturity. I talked to Gary Nelson as we see the 60 heading for pit road, a whole sequence of pit stops. And one of the things, I think the secret of their success is how simple they try to keep it. They've got the same exact driver lineup. Last year they didn't go to the paddle shift because they wanted to stick with the tried and true. And I think it's just they really try to keep it as simple as they can.
Well, and they're smart. I mean, last year they won the Tequila Patrón North American Endurance Cup, but they did it by really focusing on these 6-hour marks, Brian. I mean, they had a strategy where they'd maybe, you know, pit at a certain time, back time into those 6-hour marks. Today, it doesn't look like it's really just the top 3 get bonus points. Everyone in the field gets a couple of points at the 6-hour mark, but you get bonus points for first, second, or third in your class at these points in the race.
And I know we talked earlier about Oswaldo Negre and the 60 car having that traction control map for cold tires and all that, but I was surprised to see them put tires on that for AJ Allmendinger, and there's a problem on the banking. One of the GT cars, I can't tell whether it's GTLM or GTD from here. It's the 44, it's GTD, it's the Magnus Racing Porsche.
Well, remember Lally mentioned that they had some kind of gearbox issue going on with that car. He said it'll either continue to run or we'll have a problem.
He's definitely had a problem now. I couldn't tell if he just got up high on the wall to get out of the way from cars on the racetrack, or there was an issue and he might have actually made contact. The 02 is in.
And Jamie McMurray unbelting. He's going to hand over to Tony Kanaan. It seems that triple stints are the strategy to at least start this race down here on the 02 car. Also, just single stinting tires. So they're going to do 4 tires, fuel. See Tony Kanaan starting to strap into that car. I'm going to work my way over the wall here and see if we can get Jamie Mack, if he's already getting his helmet off. But this team just finalizing this pit stop, waiting on fuel. Kanaan already belted up in the car. And Jamie Mack's already got his helmet off back here at the back side of the garage. Jamie, that was a great run there. You put some good hours in. You were right at the front there, too. Saw Tony Kanaan get in, and he plugged in, and he was listening to the team there for a little bit. Did you give him any input on what's going on the racetrack?
Well, I was just trying to explain to him what I felt. I feel like the IndyCar guys have such a better feel in these cars versus the NASCAR guys. The tires I think are a lot more similar to what they're used to, so I don't know that I really helped him. I just was trying to explain to him what I was feeling. The bus stop was a little bit slick for me. The rest of the track felt pretty good. So yeah, just trying to give him a little feedback. You know, there's not a lot of adjustment that you can make to the car, so where we typically tell the crew chief, you know, what's going on, I don't know that they can change a whole lot here, so I was just doing the best I could.
You know, we're starting to see some of the prototype teams double stint tires. You guys, both Ganassi teams, just single stinting right now. Are you guys going to maybe make that decision here soon?
Yeah, I don't know that we'll do any. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why you're asking me. I have no idea. But the plan wasn't really to double stint. The tires gave up more at the test and in the practice on Friday or Thursday than what we remembered from last year. So I think we have enough to go almost every stop. It's such an advantage when you pull out of the pits on somewhat warm tires. It is, I've said it every year that I've been here, but it's so hard to explain to someone that's never driven a car like that how bad and how hard it is. They lock up, they don't turn, and they don't go. It's a horrible combo.
And we've seen a couple guys get into the wall exiting pit lane on cold tires. You remember any of that?
I would say that I will never do that again. I did that one year, and it's probably the lowest I've ever felt in a racing car in my life, to have to get out and go text your teammates, and then you let all these guys down at Chip Ganassi Racing. So I am very cautious leaving pit road, and I probably give up time there, but I'll never be that guy again.
Well, don't worry about that, because we've seen everybody do that over the years.
He's such a nice guy.
I was going to say, he's so incredibly modest. This is not good news for Andy Lally, John Potter, and the rest of the Magnus crew. Full course caution, and they had to go out to get the 44 because Andy Lally could not get it back to pit road. So Still got a long way to go, but the laps are going by as they sit out there. Perhaps they can affect repairs, maybe not, but Max Angelelli, he was leading, but he had to make a quick stop. Porsche news and notes from here at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. You're on board the 912. Here's some news and notes. Boy, the guy sitting down at the end of the table, Tommy Kendall, along with Lloyd Ruby, Mark Martin, Warren Johnson, Walker Evans, Duke Neyland, and Ricky Carmichael inducted into the Motorsports Hall of Fame. That's pretty special, Tommy Kendall.
I'll tell you what, it kind of freaked me out. I've been, I felt good about my career, but when you see all the names that go in and some that don't go in, it has you second guessing it. I mean, I'm honored, and it's hard to believe. I came here in 1981 as a 14-year-old and worked the signal pits for my dad, and I was just happy to get in the pit area. And to actually be allowed in the Hall of Fame it's hard to believe it's come that way. Too many people to thank, needless to say, from Dan Binks on down. A lot of people contributed to that, and it's a huge honor.
Congratulations, man. I think it's thoroughly deserved. I mean, you were the man.
Don't say that.
No. Hey,
don't
give him much credit. We'll give him some. Yeah, that's a pretty cool award.
It's absolutely awesome. Yeah. Very well deserved. Very, very well deserved indeed. And you think about, like you said, the people that are there and the people you were inducted with, and those who aren't there yet. And it's got to be just huge. And I'm sure that when you first heard about it, there was a certain amount of, are you kidding me? But you deserved it, my friend. 44 was the problem. Andy Lally, and we got a report from Chris Neville during the break that indeed it was the gearbox problem that they had talked about earlier, so no drive. It's going to take a long time to get it back. But meanwhile, the other thing that Magnus Racing always does here is their movie poster. This is the one for 2015.
Even the magical powers of John Potter cannot put that car back on track, at least right now.
Andy Lally's an ugly bird, I can say that.
Oh, those guys are
I won't
clever.
sleep well tonight.
I mean, they're a clever bunch. They put out a release around Christmas time about the teams up in arms over the BOP adjustment that Santa was being granted and so forth. Creative group. As we see our leader, you know what? He'd come in for emergency service, which, Calvin, why don't you explain what that is?
Well, basically, it allows you to come down pit lane. When the safety car goes out, Max Angelelli was on his in-lap, and this is just a bad break for this team. Because he was basically out of fuel. Pit lane closes when the safety car goes out, which means you're not allowed to come into pit lane unless you need emergency service. That means like a cut down tire or out of fuel. So now they have to bring him back in and do full service. And I think they're going to have to serve a penalty as well, a drive-through when they go back.
No.
No.
I found, and now they've lifted the engine cover. They're working in the back. My understanding on the emergency service was they would have to come in and do their stop or a drive-through on the third lap.
Yeah.
But this is the first lap. They just pitted with prototypes, and that seems out of sequence.
Exactly.
Okay.
But the big concern right now is they fought back from an electrical problem earlier, and now the engine cover off on the 10 as Max Angelelli sits on pit lane. We'll take another quick break, and we'll be back to more from the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Still under full course caution. Pit stops for a lot of the GT-LM cars right now. Moving tires out of the way so the next Corvette can get out of his pit box, and it is cold outside. The campfires, well, they are glowing in the infield. Some great shots. As we said earlier, the weather had gone away, and right now just nice and clear and cool. 0-1 with Joey Hand behind the wheel, sharing that car with Scott Pruitt, Charlie Kimball, Sage Karam leading, and Chip Ganassi racing that Ford EcoBoost in the back of the Riley chassis. So strong all weekend long, practice, qualifying, and certainly in the race. The PC class, the 54 are defending race winners, defending champions in class. They're running strong for Autosport. In GTLM, Jan Magnussen, Antonio Garcia, Ryan Briscoe being shown as the leaders, but they just made pit stops. That'll shuffle through, but you know what? It's been shuffling all day long. The Risi Competizione Ferrari, the number 62 in there as well. And in GT Daytona, number 63, Bill Sweetler, Townsend Bell. Well, can they win 2 in a row along with Anthony Lazzaro, Jeff Siegel, and Jeff Westphal? That Scuderia Corsa Ferrari has been so strong, and now the Audi R8 safety car pacing the field. You see the number 70 Mazda prototype right behind the safety car right now. And they'll get the final wave bys done, and indeed there goes the Mazda. They'll get everything sorted out. A leader back up behind the Audi R8 safety car, and we'll be back to green flag racing here in just a moment.
This final wave by, this is what we were talking about. If any car that's ahead of their class leader gets waved around to make up, to wave around again. The first one is to make sure that you don't disadvantage a lower class if they're stuck behind the overall leader. This one is how, if you stayed out on that yellow, you automatically get a lap back, whereas before you had to have a whole bunch of conditions met. So now it's much easier, and all these guys are getting a lap back.
Yeah, and you got to play this game, and it's really the only fair way to do it. It's a little laborious in getting it done, but that way no one gets disadvantaged by a lap or 3/4 of a lap when a yellow comes out. So it's a great way of keeping everyone back in the game, and certainly if you dropped a few laps down, if you play this game correctly, every time you get a yellow, you can get one of those laps back.
I was going to say, we've seen it before, somebody down 3-4 laps and work their way back.
Well, I'll tell you the opposite story. My last race in the Viper, Petite in 2013, we had the quickest car, but we were 3 laps down, and the yellow would come out the lap after we pitted 3 times in a row. Under this situation, we would have gotten back on the lead lap, and I feel like we would have had a really good shot at winning that race.
Number 3 car, Jan Magnussen now behind the wheel. Ryan Briscoe just climbed out. He's with Matt Yoakum.
The Corvette's looking very strong, first in class right now. So Ryan Briscoe, you got out, Jan Magnussen got in. How was the car during your stint?
Really good, very consistent. Felt like we were one of the better cars on old tires. Our first stint, I was a bit slow getting up to speed. The next set of tires, we bumped up the pressures and it helped a lot, but it's fun, man. Like the racing, it's just unbelievable this early in the race to find balance between racing them and like trying to look after your brakes and everything as well. But car feels really good. It's really fast, and just got to keep it on the track. I think we've got a good shot.
We've been in darkness for a couple hours now. Temperatures have really come down. What's the biggest challenge now do you see for the next few hours?
It's really just out laps, restarts. It just takes a couple of laps to really get the tires up to temperature. It gets very sketchy on pit out, so you just got to be very careful there. But once you get up to temperature, these conditions are great. It's great, physically. It's great for the engine. It's great for the tires and everything. So not complaining too much. We're glad the rain stayed away.
You can tell by the smile he is definitely having fun.
I was going to say, Matt, I mean, you look at these drivers, Jamie McMurray climbing out of the prototype right there, Ryan Briscoe. These guys are having fun, and I think that's what the series has really brought back. This 4-class racing is great, and the competition is intense. It's close.
When we talk about this race, we said at the beginning of the show, drivers want to be here. It's the first real road racing race of the season. It's so iconic, this race now, and guys like Jamie Mack want to be here. And for Ryan Briscoe, he's going to play a bigger part in this championship. He is now the designated endurance driver for Corvette. He's also going to Le Mans. Unfortunately for him, he doesn't have an IndyCar program at this time, so that's been able to make that commitment to Corvette racing. But he's loving life here, I feel.
Well, the status of this race, for Roger Penske to let his new hire do this, just tells you how significant this race is to Chevrolet, which is his partner in IndyCar.
Well, if you're not going to have a full-time IndyCar ride, driving a Corvette at Le Mans is not a bad thing.
Well, I was talking Patrón. Patrón has a full-time IndyCar ride,
well,
and Roger let him go. Oh, hey, that's a nice plan B, isn't it?
Going to be back to green flag racing here in just a moment as the field getting lined up behind the safety car. And now's where you got to really think, especially if you've come in, you've got a little time to scrub tires, but scrubbing tires when it's below 60 degrees outside and the track temperature is really cold, you're not going to really have any temperature in them, and you're going to have cars all around you, different classes of cars all around you. This is when it can all go wrong very, very quickly. It doesn't matter how fast you've been running, you've got to take care of the equipment right here.
Yeah, you're better to use the brake pedal, try and use the brakes really hard to generate heat through the brake caliper into the wheel to heat the tire, then swerving around like you see some of them.
Green flag waves. And here we go, racing again at Daytona. And remember, on restarts, you can pass as soon as the green flag comes out. And down they go.
Knew that on the last restart, gave us quite the thrill. Some moves being made throughout the pack. That's one of the fun things, is trying to time it. Everyone's on radio, so everyone's getting the green called to them, theoretically.
Might have been, wasn't Joey Hand who took the field to the green flag. He had to pass that GTD car, I think it was, and Jeff Siegel there And Tony Kanan's now making work of him as well. So got the Ganassi boys running 1-2 at the moment.
Intense stuff, and this is where you've got to be so careful, but you can make time. Woo. Sebastian Bourdais looks around the outside.
Look at that
Things are
move.
heating up in Daytona. This is going to be our last segment on Fox Sports 2. We'll be moving to Fox Sports 1 here in just a moment with Bob Varsha, Calvin Fish, and Justin Bell. The 53rd running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. It's intense. Make sure you make the move with us over to Fox Sports 1. We'll see you there.
The 53rd running of one of the world's great motorsports endurance classics is nearly 6 hours old, but that's only the 1/4 mark as dreams continue to be realized at Daytona International.
Competition is the engine that drives innovation. It fuels the journey, ignites the spirit, challenges the soul, and pushes individuals to the limit of what is possible. The arena is the world's center of racing, Daytona International Speedway. The race is the Rolex 24 at Daytona, crown jewel of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship, and a flat-out, twice-around-the-clock odyssey where merely finishing is in itself a kind of victory. Will every competitor who has taken up the challenge of the Rolex 24 see the checkered flag? Not a chance. Will a select few claim victory in one of the world's great motorsports events? Absolutely. But who will fall into which category?
Follow me. Follow me. Follow me. Follow me. Follow me.
Our story begins now at the 53rd running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona on Fox Sports.
We're nearly 6 hours into the 53rd running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona, the 53rd edition. But that's just the 1/4 mark. It's now fully dark over Daytona International Speedway as you look live at the world's center of racing. But 11 long hours of darkness remain before the morning. And then they will run through the day to decide who will win the Rolex watches and who will etch their names in the Roll of Honor here at Daytona. Hello again, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha, along with Calvin Fish and Justin Bell, who have raced on these high banks and infield road course in the past. We have a long night ahead of us, but Calvin, coming up on the 6-hour mark, we're ready to award the first points in the championship within a championship, the Tequila Patrón North American Endurance Cup.
And that's important. I mean, there's 5 bonus points goes to the leader in their class respectively at that 6-hour mark. And a lot of guys strategize around it. We're just coming off a full caution period, so it's really a sprint now for these next 10 minutes or so to try and get those bonus points. They are important, big prizes at the end of the day.
Justin, we've been watching the race all day long thus far. It seems to me we saw some pretty fine racing early on, and then everybody seemed to lose their mind for about an hour, and we had incidents and spin and contact and cars going to the garage, coming back out and so forth. Now it appears things have settled down again. Is that the nighttime effect?
I don't know what was happening about hour 3. We looked at the driver lineups, and they were still amazing drivers for the main part. And I think it's just the pressure of the track, and I also think that, especially when the sun went down behind the grandstand there in NASCAR 1-2, I think the temperature dropped a little and made it a little tougher on everybody. Definitely, I know, talking to the tire engineers from each of the tire brands, very difficult to match the tire pressures, the cold tire pressures, with what you need when you go out on track. Obviously, they've got that all together now, Calvin, so it's really starting to get together. Now, fast drivers, fast cars, and quite honestly, according to social media, this is some of the best racing they've seen from this track in an awful long time.
Well, let's take a look at how we got to this point, the 1/4 mark of the race. With all the cars, 53 strong, shiny and new, every car a potential winner, and nobody went out faster at the start than IndyCar champion racing for Ganassi, Scott Dixon. The first major spin, the number 66 car, a new team in the prototype class, and as Shane Lewis brought it back on track, he was clipped by one of the leading cars in the GT Le Mans class, a Ferrari. The Delta Wing brought a new equipment lineup and a strong driver commitment, but they suffered a mechanical breakdown just a couple of hours into the race. A huge disappointment for that hard-working team. Problems early on for the defending race champions. This is the 31 car, not the 5 car that won last year, but it's all Action Express. The Whelen Engineering Team Fox machine needed work. Then things did get a little crazy. A couple of PC cars assisting one another into spins. and an innocent victim in the GTD Porsche. 50-plus racing. In fact, 3 of the 4 drivers are over 60 years old, including our pal Dorsey Schrader. They're out here raising money for charity, having fun. Not so much fun when the car needed to go to the garage for some mechanical work. The newest star in the Chip Ganassi Racing Pantheon, Sage Karam, made this incredible move past an entire fleet of front-running cars to put the 01 Ganassi Racing Riley Ford EcoBoost at the front of the event. And then as the sun began to set, the long night begins, and with it, parties that will last throughout the night and into the day tomorrow. But that's another subject. The number 10 car from Wayne Taylor Racing, also needing some mechanical work, but they have fought their way back. Here's a look at the overall standings as we run. The Ganassi cars, the 01 of Pruitt, Hand, Kimball, and Karam, P1, followed by Dixon, Tony Kanaan, Kyle Larson, and Jamie McMurray. And then the defending race champions. In the GT Le Mans standing, it has been an absolute Donnybrook, in the overall, GT Le Mans has been an absolute Donnybrook. Right now, the Corvettes running nose to tail. And notice virtually all the other top GT LM runners right there with them. Further back in the field, as I said, 53 starters, unofficially a half-dozen cars out of the race thus far. But in the long night ahead, some dreams will be advanced, others will be dashed. It's always that way here at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Joey Hand currently at the controls, the newest hire. He'll be a full season regular alongside Scott Pruitt in the 01 for Chip Ganassi. We'll take a break and return. We're on Fox Sports 1 for the next 2 hours, so stay with us at Daytona. Back live at Daytona. Coming up on 18 hours remaining, 6 hours in. The 53rd Rolex 24 at Daytona. We've had 4 caution flags and an entire race worth of action just in the first quarter of this great race. Less than a minute to go to the first awarding of points in the Tequila Patrón North American Endurance Cup competition.
Real strategy that Action Express team used last year in terms of really like 4 mini races to try and maximize the points, and they got the job done beautifully. Obviously the big prize is winning the motor race, but if you can do it and along the way score these bonus points, it's a nice 100 grand at the end of the year, Justin.
Yeah, no one was complaining at the banquet in New York, that's for sure.
Look at this though, maybe Tony Kanaan's got other ideas on Joey Hand right now. He's in the draft.
Yeah, Tony's, you just even saw him in some of the profiles we ran earlier in the race. Tony's just a hard driver, and he wants his race. As he said, if Scott Pruitt isn't able to win it, he certainly believes and hopes it'll be his lineup. But Joey is, Calvin, you know him so well. It looks like he's really rising to the occasion here to enjoy being here. All that racing in Germany, now he's over here doing this. I mean, it's great to see him in this prototype.
Well, he's come back home to the States, but also, I mean, his home was with BMW, but he'd run with Chip so many times now that when he walks into that garage and into that transporter, they're familiar faces, and he jumped in one of these prototype machines, and first day at the Raw, the first day of the 3-day test here 2 weeks ago, he led the timesheet. So that was a great way to come back, make a bit of a statement. Not everyone was out for fast times, it just happened to go down that way, but he feels good, and I think he's going to have a lot of success here with Chip over the next few years.
Pace is certainly very fast. If you, those of you that have been following us for the last 6 hours know that we've been talking about lap times around the 1 minute 41s has been a very consistent pace. The fastest lap of the race for most of it was 1:40.2, I believe. Right now, AJ Allmendinger has dropped it down to 1:39.9. That was a couple of laps ago.
Oh, someone's in there deep. Someone was in there really deep.
One of the prototype challenge cars, the 52.
Yeah, Andrew Novich behind the wheel. I think he tried to follow Tony Kanaan through there, and I don't think that's feasible.
Different kind of race car.
Great young driver making the move up to prototype challenge for this year, and lots to learn, obviously, and he dealt with that moment pretty well.
No harm, no foul, as they say, but every time you go off here, though, you run the risk of doing some damage to your undertrade, front splitter, grass in the radiator, whatever it happens to be. So the preferred line is on the black one.
I'm amazed. We've seen a number of cars off. You talked earlier in the broadcast about the dampness of the grass, but the actual soil underneath after monsoon-like rains last night really doesn't appear to be that bad. There's not a lot of mud or puddles out there.
Yeah, I think the track looks pretty clean. Normally the bus stop looks an absolute disaster by this time of the race. I'm sure that there's a little bit of push, a bit of understeer for these cars as they turn in to the right-hand segment of it, because that's where it generally collects on the inside of those curbs, but no one seems to be too affected by it. Definitely Tony's right up Joey Hand's chuff right now as they go through.
I think he was looking for the opportunity there of using the Aston Martin as a pick. Joey initially thought to the right-hand side, then switched back to the inside where Tony was already committed to. And again, one of the rules in endurance racing is don't hit anything or don't hit anyone, you know, particularly your teammates. So Tony's got experience. These guys were actually teamed together and ran at the Brickyard a couple of years ago in the same car, so they know each other quite well.
Yeah, you know, it's been a great race, but we've also got a lot of friends out in this at the moment. And my nemesis on a Fox Sports 1 show is my brother by a different mother, Townsend Bell. And I managed to beat him in our last episode of Shut Up and Drive, but he's coming back. We're filming another one next week in the Napa. And Andrew Marriott's with him. Andrew, just remind him he doesn't need too much practice before next week.
Justin Bell says he's quicker than you.
Good luck.
So you're in this big battle then with the Viper. You won here last year. You can make it a second, but it's a big battle with the Viper, man.
Yeah, the Viper's incredibly strong, but I'm really proud of this Ferrari. I mean, we're quicker than we thought we'd be. The Continental tires are incredibly consistent. There's so much grip at night, so the pace is very good right now. We're still early, but we're running really strong.
Last year you were an American team with the Ferrari. Now this is a very Italian team around you here. Do you see much difference?
Well, the race suits didn't arrive until about 30 minutes before the race, but other than that, it's been good. The Scuderia Corsa guys, they've got a championship pedigree. We obviously won here last year, so it's a great combination of talent and success, and we're hoping to continue that.
Every season you appear at the Indy 500, you finish fourth in the past. Are you going to go back again this year?
Yeah, I think I'll be back at Indy. We're going to Le Mans as well, so that'll be 2 weeks after the Indy 500. And to start things off here at Daytona, it's just incredible.
And a TV star too these days. Townsend Bell living that dream.
What a life that guy leads, I tell you what.
Yeah, you try spending too much time with him.
Yeah, I can imagine.
No, he's wonderful. Do you know what? He's just, but again, you know how I said earlier about Bruni having that look in his eye? So does Townsend. And in our show, you know, we end up, it's just every boy's dream, every man's dream. We find a wonderful road somewhere in North America. We close it off and we race each other in the Lexus. And Townsend, when it comes to being on the open road, he does things in that car we shouldn't probably do. And he's sort of up on me at the moment.
Boys and their toys. Okay, we've been through 6 hours, so the first points in this year's Tequila Patrón North American Endurance Cup have been awarded. 5 for first, 4 through second, and so on down to 5th place in each class. Congratulations to the winners at the 6-hour mark, at the 12-hour, 18-hour, and conclusion of this 24-hour race. More points will be awarded, and then it's on to the next round of the championship and the Cup competition. The Mobil won 12 hours of Sebring, fueled by Fresh from Florida, in March. And then the 6 hours at the Glen and the Petit Le Mans. To Jamie Howe.
Well, Bob, when we talk about the Rolex 24, we talk about all the big names that come out. Well, that includes with the manufacturers. Raj Nair is the Vice President of Global Development. Raj, talk about development on these EcoBoost engines. Why is this program so important to the Ford Motor Company?
Well, you know, this 3.5 EcoBoost we developed for our F-150 truck, our Explorer Sportatora show. We only started racing it last year. Won 3 races, including Sebring. Team's done a great job of developing it over the year, and pretty pleased with how it's running right now. Cars are running 1-2, running at a good pace, and a lot of racing left to do, but numbers on the engines look good. And you know, the development we're doing here in racing, we're taking right back into the production cars. So a lot of what we learned
We're putting back into the F-150 Raptor, getting 450 horsepower. This same engine going to go in our Ford GT at over 600 horsepower. So it's great from production to racing, back to production.
Talk about that GT supercar. What is the plan with that? Rumors are rampant that it's going to Le Mans.
Well, you know, we designed that car to be a pretty fast car, and we introduced it in Detroit for production. I haven't announced anything for racing yet, but pretty good platform if we decided to do that.
When you look at this program and the development over the last 2 years, really, what are your thoughts going forward? What else needs to be done?
Well, we're really pleased with the teams we got going on right now, and in endurance racing and in NASCAR, and we are really emphasizing performance as a Ford brand because we know that's what our fans really want to see out on the track and out on the road. So you're going to see a really increased focus on performance as far as Ford Motor Company.
I'm glad you're out here. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Jamie. Quick correction on the points for the NAEC. It's 5 for first, 4 for second, 3 for third, and 2 for everyone else in class.
Essentially, if you finish this 24-hour race, even if you're not in the top 3 at any point, you'll walk away from here with 8 points. So it keeps it nice and tight and really emphasizes wanting to be in that top 3 at these 6-hour marks in the races.
And starting with a 24-hour race and 4 sets of points is huge. 3 of the 4 class winners after the Rolex 24 last year went on to take the TP NAEC, the Patrón Cup. We'll be back.
You know, you look at the technologies with the different kinds of cars, you know, GTs, prototypes, you know, it's just, there's so much to see here.
There's so much racing. You know, if one class gets strung out, you just wait for the next lap. They can watch the garages and what's going on.
Just the smells and the sounds and the excitement. In my opinion, there's no better sport in the world.
It's a lot of different races and styles of races compiled into one.
Technology and diversity are the soul of sports car racing. As you just heard, we have plenty on display here at the 53rd edition of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Right now, that technology will be slowed a bit. We have our 5th full course caution of the race. There's the reason. Tor Graves in the number 7 Starworks Daytona prototype has spun out at turn 1, and he's having a terrible time getting that car refired.
So tough, Calvin, isn't it? We've seen 10 cars, other cars spin out in that corner over the course of this last 6.5 hours, and yet it happens to them. And this late in the race, I mean, quarter mark, obviously quarter-way mark, they're just not able to refire. It's just craziness. It looks like it just lost it under braking. We've talked about it before. There's a transition there as you come off the banking into turn 1 from the oval, if you like, onto the road course, and it just can catch you out. Fully loaded up, the car moves around a little bit, and for some reason, we can see the lights on the dash. They have power to everything. They've been instructing him on the radio, haven't they, to turn everything off. He literally, these cars, if you imagine your road car as your one key, on this you have 6 to 8 buttons, different things to turn off, and then recycle it through. And normally that will kickstart, get the ECU sort of going again, recycling, and you normally get off the way. But this car's been running well, and this is costly.
Well, it's not a car that he's used to. I mean, he's been brought in for this race. He's been a 3-time winner in the World Endurance Championship, but, you know, he's not a regular in this type of car, and suddenly it all goes wrong, and we're hearing radio communication that he says if I crank it anymore, I'm going to run the battery totally flat. So not sure if there's an issue or whether he's just not doing the right thing inside the car. I mean, they try and teach the drivers who are new to the game all of the ins and outs to preclude something like this from happening, but even so, in the heat of the moment, you may still be doing the wrong thing in the cockpit.
And it's quite a driver lineup in that car. Got a Porsche factory LMP1 driver, Brendan Hartley, 11-time Formula One winner, Rubens Barrichello, Ryan Hunter-Reay, the reigning Indianapolis 500-mile champion. There's Jim Pace aboard the 50 car. A highway to help machine. It's in the garage for a long time, but back on track now. Pace qualified it for this race. Let's go down to Jamie Howe.
And in the PC pit with Colin Braun, the number 54 from Core Autosport. Colin, you guys won this race last year, so you're the defending winners, leading right now. What is the plan now as we head into the nighttime hours?
I think the plan now is for us just to try to stay clean, make good decisions in traffic, and you know, just keep making good choices. It's hard to lead these races because people can do so many things to try and make back laps with the way the rules are now. So we've got a little bit of a defense position to play as well as continue to be on offense. But these Corrado Sport guys do a good job, and we just keep our heads down and try to make smart choices.
You come from a family of racing, but it's a family that knows competition. Your little brother, Travis, I've been following this on Twitter. He has a commercial that's in the finals to be on a Super Bowl commercial. Where is he at with that?
Yeah, he's got a really cool deal going with Doritos. He's got a Super Bowl ad. He made it basically into the top 10, and now it's down to fans going online and voting for it. So if you can go to votefirstword.com and click on Baby's First Word is the name of his commercial. And they pick the guy that has the most votes, and they air it during the Super Bowl, and he wins $1 million. So fingers crossed for him, and if anybody can go help him out, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. The first time I met Travis, he was a little kid down here on pit lane calling strategy with your dad. When can we expect to see you back in the car?
Yeah, I'm going to be getting in right after Mark. Mark's doing a great job. You know, John and James both did a great job as well. So for us, just working through our plan right now.
Good luck. Thank you.
Hey, Jamie, you know the baby in the commercial's name is Liam.
I saw that, Calvin. I did, actually.
How's baby Liam doing here, being at the racetrack for the first time?
He absolutely loves it. You know, it's funny because the race cars, I think, actually make him exhausted. And he has slept so well every night that we've been here. So I think we're going to bring him to all the races.
That's pretty awesome. He's a cute little guy.
Thank you.
Of course, what Jamie and Calvin are talking about is the new son brought into the world by Jamie and husband Brian Sellers. There's baby Liam.
Yeah, as you can
like
see,
Brian
he's
when he's not getting his own way.
He looks as happy as you just said, Jamie. Very lovely. But I think it was moments after the action happened. So there you are.
There he is. Yeah.
Wow.
How about those big eyes?
That's the boy. Pretty cool.
That is awesome.
Let's hope he goes to college and is more intelligent than most racing drivers. and doesn't have to do this for a living. Oh
my. Andrew Marriott is standing by.
Yeah, I'm down in the Star Works pit. Bit disappointing here. Torgrave stopping Scott Mayers with it. Have you any idea what's happened there?
Yeah, I guess, you know, just kind of a rookie mistake. He spun out going into one, and for some reason the doggone car won't restart, so we need a little help to get it in, which is going to kind of make today a tough day.
Yeah, you were slightly off the pace, but hoping the race was going to come to you a bit.
Yeah, you know, we were dialing it back a little bit, trying to be conservative, waiting to see how the day planned out because we know there's going to be a lot of attrition, so we were hoping.
Torgraves, of course, is from Thailand. In fact, there's 2 Thai drivers in this race. And we remember that at Petit Le Mans, we talked about a man called Prince Birabongsi, who was Thailand's famous Formula One driver. I want to show you what he looks like, because here on the spare nose is the famous Prince Bira, and Thailand's most famous racing driver. So that's one for you historians.
Not often we see a driver from Thailand in the race. And there goes the car with a little push start.
Andrew's like the Cliff Claiborne of motor racing, isn't he? He just knows everything.
Well, we had some time during the test 2 weeks ago to talk with drivers about various aspects of racing, including some of the more unsavory aspects, such as when everything goes completely wrong.
I don't know what my crash face looks like. I'm sure it's not great.
You know, your eyes are nice and big. It's like your mouth is probably open.
It's like the...
Whoa, 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 whoa. If you do this sport long enough, it's gonna happen.
I got it. I got it. I don't got it.
Oh, they hit him. Oh, no! Very big accident.
That one I had time to think about. I mean, it's amazing how quick your mind can react. And when I hit it, I thought, yeah, we're good. And then it hit the diff. Even when I was wrecking end over end, I had my hands on the wheel. It tacoed the wheel, everything. It's like if you could turn your head a little inside your helmet and be like, you know, like get away from it, it's that kind of face.
You're paying attention. I mean, you're looking and seeing, even to that last moment of impact, is there something I can do?
The last thing that goes before your mind before you actually wreck is, I can save it. I can save it, because you have to be an eternal optimist.
You know, you're thinking a lot. You weren't just thinking, you're thinking, can I do anything? Why am I upside down in the air?
I think when things go wrong and things go in slow motion, you'd wish it would go by a little quicker so you just forget about it.
And then I can't say what I'm going to say. You know, I was like, oh no, we'll just go with that.
They say we have safer barriers and soft walls. They're not soft. The last 2 seconds, I've learned over the years with plenty of my crashes, you have to actually be smart and sometimes relax.
I'm gonna try and close my eyes.
Eyes open.
It's like squint the eyes and the mouth, and it's hold on tight.
Well, earlier in the day, we spoke with Memo Gidley as he continues his rehabilitation after a absolutely horrifying crash in this race 1 year ago. But that one you saw that Joey Hand had at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course a few years ago is pretty much equally mega.
Oh yeah, and I think it's quite interesting, as Memo said, he doesn't remember it. Talking with our great buddy Gilles de Ferran, when he's had his big accident, he doesn't remember them. The human body brain is designed, if you're lucky, not to remember the bad things in life, and a bad accident is one of those. As we rejoin Jamie down in the pits with tons of action from the Ganassi crew.
Yes, lots of actions. All the prototypes pretty much have hit pit road at this point, but when Tony Kanaan came in, Joey Hand, his teammate, right behind him, so he came in at a little bit of a funny angle, wasn't too far off the mark, so team able to do the service. Both Tony and Joey stayed behind the wheel, fuel and tires.
That was close. Like the Action Express boys with Sebastian Bourdais had an excellent pit stop, or didn't take tires or something.
1 little, 2 little, 3 little Daytona prototypes make their way back onto the track. Here's what the North American Endurance Cup, the Patrón Cup, is all about. Points awarded at each 6-hour mark. A big pot of gold at the end of the season. The pits are open at Daytona for the GT classes, and there's plenty of action up and down the pit lane. We get ready for a green flag here. A little over 17 and a half hours remaining. The Rolex 24 at Daytona. From Alex Jobe Racing, the WeatherTech car number 22 is in. As Justin Bell pointed out earlier, Alex Jobe was awarded the Bob Snodgrass honors from Rolex for his body of work in sports car racing, and it is substantial. Victories in all the major endurance races around the world.
You're hearing the pit lane limiter just come off there as he leaves around the corner. Now, Calvin, it's interesting. I wonder how the drivers, he's not working the wheel too much, nice and steady going out. Big difference between going out in yellow and getting the chance to warm the tires up progressively without the pressure of competition. If you haven't been in the car for a while, and of course some of these teams have so many drivers that you can be out of the car an awful long time. It's quite nice, rather like going behind the pace car in the rain, isn't it? You get a chance to see where the puddles are. So I'm sure everyone enjoying the opportunity to warm them up. You can see them weaving there on the straight. We saw a little bit of very close contact earlier when people were getting a bit aggressive with the tire warming. But right now, it's a beautiful night out there.
Well, there's the number 60. 17-year-old Matt McMurray is now behind the wheel. He took over for A.J. Allmendinger. A.J. holds the distinction of having run in 10 consecutive Rolex 24s at Daytona, and he has led in each of those 10 now. But before he got out of the car, he chatted a little bit about the differences between this Ligier P2 Honda Turbo sports car and his regular ride in NASCAR.
Hey, AJ, work on your fuel economy here on these yellows. We need to work on it in this map 5, okay?
Yeah, I was going to ask, man. Because I was trying to keep the brakes and tires hot, so next time I'm in it, just let me know, when you want me to save, and then when I can start heating everything up.
Yeah, 10-4, 10-4.
Is it okay to run it in a high gear, like 4th gear, and lug it?
Yep, it is, yep.
10-4.
Well, this is a new program for this team, so AJ's just asking all the right questions. He doesn't want to do the wrong thing. I mean, with the electronics and different engines and stuff, he wants to make sure that, okay, you asked me to save fuel. I don't want to do something that's the wrong thing to do. So
you don't want to chug around, putting a lot of stress on the gearbox and stuff, so he asked the right question there.
Well, you suddenly get that kickback through the whole drivetrain when you're doing that. So it's a bit like the pit lane speed limiter. That doesn't do nice things to the drivetrain either.
Makes you appreciate the work of the all-rounders in motorsport, the Marios Andretti's and AJ Foyt's and Dan Gurney's, so much more. There's a familiar face from Verizon IndyCar fans. James Hinchcliffe, the mayor of Hinchtown, in the number 70 Mazda diesel prototype. Here's our Mazda mid-race report with Andrew.
And I'm with John Doonan, who's now donned a woolly hat. He's obviously going to stay up all night. Yes, getting halfway through now, and you're happy.
Very happy. We verified that this afternoon it was a historical moment for the brand to have a Mazda lead overall here at Daytona. Really proud of the guys. We've had minor issues. We had a fuel line come off on the 07 car, the 7-0 outside of Jonathan getting hit early on. Everything's been smooth sailing so far. Just got to make a lot of laps, and a long way to go yet.
This is probably not the best racetrack for the diesel, is it? How do you feel you'll go at Sebring?
That's right. Daytona is not necessarily a place where the SkyActiv technology can shine. A lot of long straightaways, but bring Mazda Raceway along in May, and you're going to see a Mazda running up front.
That'd be a good place to do it. Also, you did have some aspirations to go to Le Mans with this car. I think you've had a few problems with the ACO. What's the current status on that?
Well, thanks to the relationship that IMSA has with the ACO and the FIA, we continue to work on the future strategy for Le Mans. But right now, we're dedicated to trying to win a TUDOR United SportsCar Championship.
That's terrific, John. Keep smiling.
Thanks a lot.
What a great guy. So much passion. I mean, he works tirelessly. He's the ultimate multitasker. And, you know, they're really doing some great things. They're building that team. There's some really great engineering staff there, some great lead mechanics, and they're really doing great jobs with their driving squad too. I mean, got some really stunning young drivers running for them now.
And we'll get to the O2 in the garage there in a moment, but with all that's on John's plate, I mean, it's not just the IMSA SkyActiv diesels. Mazda's ladder to Indy consists of so many levels. He travels to Japan at least once a month to consult with the board. I mean, I don't know how he does it. A family man to his core. I saw the O2 back in the garage. Jamie Howe, what's going on?
Well, I just checked in with the team, Bob, and it's a pretty easy fix. Actually, the front splitter is broken, and while we're under this full course caution, the team decided to go ahead and use this time to the best of their advantage, so they went back to the garage, and they'll be out pretty quick.
Yeah, and that's where the experience shows. Don't go around there and cause more damage to the front end of that race car. Under yellow, take it back to the garage. You're only allowed 4 working crew over the wall in pit lane. They can put an army around that front end, get that front splitter changed out. And the splitter is no longer part of just the nose shell. It's actually part of like the front structure now, unlike the old days. So it's a bit more of a task.
Well, to your point, the team knew that they were going to be down for a while, because look at that trail of oil soak, the speedy dry. Somebody has left a mess. As the crew goes to work to clean it up, why not use the time as efficiently as possible? Get fixes large and small done on the race car. We'll take this opportunity for a break.
Our goals for this season, obviously, is to come here to Daytona and replicate what we did in 2001, and that is to win. Now, winning overall isn't really an option because of the sophistication of the prototype vehicles, but winning our class is. These are the same chassis that we finished last year with because they're brand new cars. I know the engine guys went back in. They looked at calibration. Number one, to change the area under the curve, to give us a little more usable horsepower. Not necessarily more horsepower in total, but throughout gear changes on different racetracks, I think we've got a little more help from the engine. And also looking at fuel economy, which always plays a key role. And that's a huge step in the right direction to gaining a championship in 2015. That's our ultimate goal: Drivers' Championship, Team Championship, Manufacturers' Championship. You don't have to win every race to do that, but you got to finish every race and you got to try and make the podium every time you go out. We believe we're capable of that.
If you're looking for a class in which the horsepower of the street car most closely approximates the horsepower of the race car, GTLM is what you want to look at, as the O2 is now back on track. Took a while to get whatever the problem was unstuck, but the fix went pretty quickly.
Well, that is a little bit longer than they anticipate. We saw a lot of concerned faces down there, like something had sheared off. It should have been just you know, get it off quickly, replace it, get him back out there. But I'm sure it took them an extra lap of what they thought was going to be the appropriate time to change this piece. But have to wait and see, try and get a report on if they have any issues still. It looked at one point like they were shaking their head like they were going to go back to the original piece. I'm curious to know if they did get everything changed effectively.
On board with Ricky Taylor and the family ride, the Konica Minolta Corvette DP for Wayne Taylor Racing. Meanwhile, brother Jordan is back there in the motorhome in his onesie.
As I said earlier, if you want to laugh, follow Jordan on Twitter. Totally crazy. He just gets bored, I think.
That is hideous.
Seen you in that, Justin. He looks a lot better.
Mine's yellow, gold on black. Not
right.
Black on
Yes.
gold.
Yeah, reversed.
Yeah, it's a British thing. No, these guys are great. You know, it's great for the sport. Lots of young people starting to get really involved, watching, following, and there's an energy to it. And you know, every generation of racing has great characters, and every generation says, "Oh, you're not as good as our generation." In terms of, you know, Sterling Moss said that when a journalist asked him, he said, "Oh, you were the greatest generation." He said, "Apparently, I was told that the guys from the 30s were when I started."
Right,
so
exactly.
it's going to be perpetually that way, but. Look at the inside of that car with all those well laid out dials. Beautiful nightlight there, Bob.
Well, Dad should know how it's need, because Dad, Wayne Taylor, won this race 10 years ago. Time for another break. We'll be back on the other side of the commercial and this news break coming up here on Fox Sports 1. Back live at Daytona, Tony Kanaan not only back on track, he makes a final pit stop for a top off as we anticipate a green flag. Oh, but not right away. You picked a fine time to leave me loose wheel.
Oh, dear. Really? Yeah. That was very clever, though. That's going a long way. Let's see if it'll make the pit lane. Normally the car can get there without the tire. Normally the tire doesn't get there without the car. This could be a...
This tire is warming itself, going up and down, back and forth. Yeah.
Wow.
51 machine that has lost that wheel.
It's like, it is like a Michelin ad, actually.
Oh boy, and it's on the ground.
Less salubrious.
Hopefully the suspensions are stiff enough that they'll actually still prop the wheel far enough off the ground. But
much more on a prototype, Calvin, a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with a GT car, especially on the banking, it's just, if it had been his inside left, I think he could have carried it a little bit of speed and held the car up. But what happens now is you go from, oh, a wheel fell off, to you've just worn through an awful lot of carbon fiber.
Yeah,
and
it'd be better off on the apron right now, I think.
Yeah.
It's Francois Perraudot of France. If they just left us with self-leveling suspensions, you wouldn't need to worry about it. Just drive around on 3 wheels.
Yeah, it really was wearing away there as it was making its way off the wheel hub.
Yeah, it just left the pit lane, so.
Is there a bigger issue with that right front suspension?
Finger trouble, I would think, on the pit stop.
And just had someone on Twitter asked me what those long line of lights are on the side of Ferrari roof, and Calvin and I can't come up with anything, Bob, other than decoration.
Well, other than the lights that are required on the car, like amber lights on the GT car, or the yellow lights on the GT car and amber on the prototypes, so the drivers can tell who's coming up behind them. The teams go to great lengths to put distinctive lighting patterns on their cars so that their spotters up on top of the grandstand and the teams in the pit lane can tell at a glance, even from 1.5 miles away, which of their sister cars, or where their car is on track in case they need to find it.
Yeah.
And there is a tremendous number of different variations of those lighting patterns in the field. Andrew?
Well, Bob just stolen my thunder there because he got it absolutely spot on. I'm just walking down towards that car now, looking at all those green lights. But, of course, with LED lights coming in these days, and I've got a whole row of them in my kitchen, you can do so much more to make the car so easily recognizable. But here we are. I'm going to throw it down to Jamie as I look at these problems with this Ferrari 51 car.
Well, I'm down by Ganassi, Andrew, and this team, the O2 team, is set up to come in for yet another pit stop. They did do that work back in the garage. The team told me they did have a little bit of a delay. It took longer than they were expecting, but they still only lost 1 lap, which is pretty impressive. There was a little bit of a jam getting the nose back on. Then they came out, did a lap, came in and did a splash of fuel. Tony's still in the car right now, and it looks like they're going to do another splash of fuel, except the team also has a flashlight out, some zip ties out, so there's some other work to be done on this car.
Well, they're certainly on top of things. They recognized as long as they could just beat that pace car, they just went 1 lap down, which was remarkable. Obviously, they caught a bit of a break with the extended yellow here, and now they're just trying to maximize the time here. They've got poor track position. They might as well make sure everything's totally okay with that race car.
And stay out on the next stint as long as they can. While we're in break, we heard Tony chatting with the team on the radio. He was told, you're only a lap down. And Tony sounded as determined as a burglar when he said, I'll get it back.
Yeah. We may understand how the O2 had the broken splitter. We heard initially from the team it may have been inherited, but let's take another look here.
Second car in line. Oh. Wheelie.
Yeah, that'll do it there, and almost quite lucky that it did the immediate damage there, guys, because that can work its way off and cause you a problem at 200 and something miles an hour, whereas this way it was obviously instantaneous, the damage, and they addressed it straight under the yellow there. Yeah, the initial report we heard was that Tony had inherited the problem when he got in the car, but I think that was definitely him running just a little bit wide through that chicane there and launching it over the curbs. He and Joey are in a thick battle there for the lead of this motor race, and it was about 30 minutes ago, we believe, from our tape room when they dug deep and found that for us. As we're watching all these amazing names up here, guys, I just had a thought. We all remember, you talk about it, for the rest of your days, you'll be able to say, I was in the same race as Ayrton Senna many times. There's people out there now, these gentlemen that get involved in our racing, and to say you're on track with Rubens Barrichello, and Tony Kanaan and Scott Dixon, all these guys, really amazing. Andrew, what do you got?
Yeah, I just wanted to update you on that 51 Ferrari. Saw the wheel come off. They fitted another wheel. There wasn't any damage at all to the underside of the car, so that's up and running. But also a car that slipped off the top 20 or so and has actually definitely a retirement is the Krone Racing Ligier. I'm told that the Judd powered BMW motor that blew up, and they're completely out of the race, so that's the end of it.
Well, that may have been where the oil came from that took such a cleanup. Green, green, green.
There's going to be a shootout at the front. Joey Hand leads the field to green here. Sebastian Bourdais right behind him, and Ricky Taylor has cleared traffic. He's now up into the 3rd spot. Oh, big lock up there.
PC cars pinching each other off there at the entrance to one.
Gets turned.
Around goes the 85. Oh, I thought he'd missed him.
Got clipped by the 38, I think, and turned him around.
Gently, boys.
Very easy to get lose track, lose sight of what's going on around you. The
Cold
visibility
tires.
there.
Yep.
Cold tires, you're getting up to speed. It's a chain reaction thing, just like on the highway. These are high-speed jinks, so much more to go wrong. But right now, look at that. Sebastian Bourdais looking on the outside of Joey there.
These guys are going to be pretty careful. There's a lot of oil dry out there from someone who dropped some fluid around this racetrack, and the last thing you want to do is be a hero and dump it in the fence here. You're going to try and feel out this grip level, and this is where the guys really have great experience in terms of not pushing it too hard. But sort of back in the pack there, and you suddenly see someone spin, everyone jumps on the brakes, you don't have the tire temperature, not much you can do in those sort of circumstances.
What a different opening lap Joey Hand is having compared to the BMW here when it comes to the amount of traffic. Joey's got a clear track. The GT cars do not. A long way to work their way through the field. Just look at that up there on the banking. That is fantastic. Coming up towards the tri-oval here. Just fantastic.
Some of the old gray hairs will tell you that they liked it better when there were no lights all the way around this racetrack, and when it was dark, it was truly dark at the Rolex 24. But even with those lights up there, they only light the track to about 30% of the candle power they have available, say when NASCAR runs its midsummertime night race.
I was in the race the first year they put the lights all the way around, and in practice when they turned them on full, and basically you needed factor 70 because it was so ridiculous that actually we all went, well, what's the point of running
like
during the night?
Microwave, right?
It was, yeah, so they turned them down to that 30% and it was much better. Cars look magnificent. I was up on the roof watching this action during my break, and oh, it makes you a race fan out of everyone. Yeah. If you have not been to Daytona, please one day make your way here, as you should, Sebring, as Le Mans, as Petit Le Mans. If you are an armchair enthusiast, get your butt off the seat and come and see it's live, because this is, you can touch the cars, you can see the drivers, and you can get up to all sorts of naughtiness here. This is really good fun.
As we watch the top 3 cars in GTLM, Jan Magnussen's Corvette, Nick Tandy in the Porsche, Olivier Beretta actually just barged his way past the 911 Porsche into second place in class.
There's so much to see and explore at these events. The access to the teams and the drivers is, if you're a Grand Prix fan or you're a NASCAR fan even, you just have so much more access, particularly to the drivers, because they're willing to have a chat. They're willing to do the autographs and everything because they're used to it. That's just the environment they've been brought up in sports car racing. And the next event is obviously Sebring, middle of March. If you're living down here in Florida, or if you can make the trip, get down there. That's an extraordinary racetrack. Very different to this one, but certainly superb in terms of giving the spectators a great feel and great viewing vantage points around the circuit.
Another look at the restart.
Magnificent start there from one of the PC cars. I think he jumped about 3 spots and then
Ferrari
got the car
there.
turned.
Yeah,
Whoa.
the Ferrari is the one who tucked to the inside and turned the 85, and then the 38 clipped him and spun around.
Yeah, it's like a shoal of fish, and they go around any object that's in their way, and that was actually very cleanly done. That could have been a little bit of a mess, but very nice.
Come on board the
Ferrari. It's the 62 down at the inside, just tips him. He gets a bump from the Corvette. Corvette was lucky to get away with that.
Yes, indeed.
This is the look from the 007. Another perspective. Oh,
that one was painful.
When looked at in macro, there was an awful lot more contact than you would have expected.
Boy, that poor 50 car has been kicked from pillar to post in this race. On board the 007. Of course, it's an Aston Martin. Brandon Davis currently at the keyboard.
One of the nicest in-car audios as well, if we just listen as he accelerates.
12-cylinder Vantage.
You hear that screaming high-pitched noise? On that cue, I'll pass it to Andrew Marriott.
Yeah, well, we're talking about the GTLM Aston Martin, because I'm down here with Pedro Lamy. This is a car we thought would be mixing it with the Corvettes and with the Porsches. We've had all kinds of problems.
Yeah, at the beginning of the race, the car was quite fast, but then we had a problem with the clutch, and we lost so many laps right at the beginning of the race, so now it's tough for us. But we expect good from the car, but that's racing in 24 hours. Anything can happen. Now it's too far to be fighting for a good position.
Well, Pedro, you're here in your civvies at the moment. I guess you'll get back in your race suit. You could be sleeping in your motorhome. Why are you down in this pit?
Yeah, I got a bit stressed with what's happened, so now I try to rest a bit, and I will be back. I'll be back in the car very soon.
Because you'll be doing a full program in the WEC with the Aston Martin, hoping for some good success in the WEC.
Yeah, hopefully, yes. I mean, actually, this race would be practice as well for WEC. We will see if we can do a good championship. Hopefully, we can win the championship. It's our main target and dream to win the championship.
Pedro, just remind me, how long have you been racing? Because I remember you racing in Formula One for Lotus, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I'm already 25, I think, 25 years racing professionally, and I love what I do. I feel young, and I like to stay here racing many years I can. I don't know. We'll see.
What a great attitude. Let's go back to the booth.
All right, thank you, Andrew. I, too, remember Pedro Lamy driving for Lotus. His teammate was a very young Mika Hakkinen. It was that long ago.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is a great little battle here, what we've got going on for the lead in GTLM. Jan Magnussen has the lead, but look at this. This is Olivier Beretta locking him up as he dives to the inside, and there's no love lost between Olivier Beretta in the Corvette racing team for so many years. He won championships with them, won Le Mans many times, but he was very upset when they relieved him of a full-time ride, and there's a lot of bad blood at the end of that relationship. Olivier wasn't happy, felt that he still had some good years left in him, and I'm sure he's going to be determined here to take the lead and make a bit of a case for himself.
Meanwhile, here comes the DP flashing headlights to make sure the two GTLM drivers battling ahead know they're being overtaken.
That was a little tidier overtaking maneuver that time. Definitely used the ability on the banking to pull past the Corvette.
Olivier will have a big smile on his face after that.
He will. He might have a little vibration through his front right tire, though, and he's doing it again. He has flat spotted that to the point that it's now going to just get worse. If you can imagine, you take that edge off a tire. In those of you in road tires, we never really see it unless it's really bad. But what happens on a race tire, it just always finds, every time it does a rotation under braking, it will find the same flat spot and just compound the problem.
What was it that Porsche driver Damian Faulkner said earlier? I Fred Flintstoned the tire.
Yeah.
Squared that sucker off. A word has come from the garage. The number 70 Mazda Skyactiv diesel has been officially retired from the race with an oil pump failure. Officially, that is only the third retirement. A number of cars are in the garage or the pit lane. And the race goes on.
Welcome back to the Rolex 24 at Daytona. We have just over 17 hours left in this race down in the Corvette racing pit. They're, of course, keeping an eye on that number 3 and the number 4 machine in second and fourth place, respectively. But Mark Royce is here. He's the Executive Vice President of Global Development. Talk about the development of this C7 and what it means to the brand.
Well, you know, we've been racing Corvettes here for a long time, and the new C7 here and the Z06 version, which we're racing here today, we're just bringing the production car online, and it was developed right alongside the C7R here that you see racing out here. So it was a very exciting time for us. We've got a new Gen 5 engine, new supercharged version in the production car here, and all aluminum chassis. So, you know, this is a development hotbed for us, so it's been great.
Corvette racing has been racing at Daytona since 1999, but your first time here personally, you were 13 years old. What is it about this event that's so special?
Well, number one, it's very American and very international, and it's on, you know, Daytona is no doubt the championship of racing, and the event here and the facility here, which is, you know, you see something very special happening behind me in the stands, and Daytona is really all about American sports car racing and NASCAR. So for me, it's spiritual, and every time I come here and I watch the sunset, I get chills up and down my spine.
Your excitement is infectious. Go watch the race. Thank you.
Thank you.
I like that. Spiritual is a great way to describe this race in a single word. Corvettes are doing well, running second and fourth in class right now in the hands of Jan Magnussen in the 3 and Oliver Gavin in the 4.
It's great to listen to guys like Mark and John Doon and just the passion they have for their race programs. It's that's why they succeed and why they continue to support.
Yeah. Amazing, really, isn't it? From the structure, if you looked at it as a graph, you've got the people at the top of these car corporations. The common denominator is they're not just businessmen. They've got a passion for the automobile, whether it's road cars or race cars, and then that filters down to the people that run motorsports, and then that filters down to the people that come to the tracks. I mean, it's really this pyramid that none can do without the other, but thank goodness there's a passion within the automobile industry to support racing, because it's this real-time accelerated learning test bed. And what they take 2 years to do or a year to do on the normal development cycle, they do in about a week. Slight exaggeration, but in race terms. So it's great.
There's another brand with a lot of passionate followers. Viper. Ben Keating at the hand of the number 33. Currently shown first in GT Daytona.
Yeah, I think they're going to be really tough this year. Had a lot of speed last year. Didn't quite execute at certain racetracks, but I think they're going to be tough for the championship.
There's the second place car in class, the number 63 Ferrari. Our buddy Townsend Bell.
TB, defending race winner, of course. Won the race in a Ferrari, campaigned by level 5 at this race. Then they went on to really be a championship factor all season long. Just came a little bit shy when they switched over to AIM Autosports shop for the remainder of the season. A tremendous effort by all of the group there, and really kept digging hard, but at the end of the day, the Ferrari didn't quite seem up to the task with the AOP that they had at the end of the season last year.
I've seen that look before in Townsend's driving style. He's got the Viper in his sights, and he will be going by. Just great. And of course, his relationship with Bill Sweetler is such a good one. They just complement each other, and Bill's developed leaps and bounds as a driver. This is great to watch. Tell you what, last week, Calvin, I was out in the Viper. I took it out to Willow Springs, shot one of my world's fastest shows, and it is still a raw, beautiful, fantastic car to drive that exhilarates your senses, and I'm a massive fan. Obviously, I did well in the car back in the day, and it's just so good that Ben Keating and that group and Riley, they're keeping the legend going for this year. Yeah, it's great. Fans love it. There's Viper fans that come out in droves to watch.
And they have got quite a driver lineup in this car. Bell and Sweedler, who were on the winning team last year, plus former GT class champ Jeff Siegel, Anthony Lazzaro, who has a gazillion miles in these cars, and Jeff Westphal. And they could be forgiving for saying this race owes them something. Or last year, controversial finish.
Yep.
The finish in class was reversed, but it was hours after the race was over, so the winning team didn't get the chance to step up there on the top step of the podium, wave the flag, drink the champagne, and take the Rolex. They got the Rolex, but well after the fact.
Yeah, I think the other team had already fled for foreign Mexican border with their Rolexes, as I would have done, just so you know.
Here's the coffee rocket, Rory Butcher. Behind the wheels, young Scott.
Yeah, debut here at the Rolex 24.
Really nice kid. He's running Carrera Cup over in Great Britain. He ran in British GT last year with an Aston Martin. And really talented young man. Damien Faulkner is kind of mentoring him a little bit. And very strong driver lineup in that car. Really, really good. Kuba Jamaziak's in there. Mike Skeen. Michael Avenatti, who's the car owner and team leader there. He does a great job behind the wheel also.
On board with Brandon Davis, the 007 Aston Martin Vantage. Battling with Bryce Miller. With Paul Miller Racing. Bryce Miller, a full-time driver with the team last year, stepping back, just doing the long distance races in the Patrón Cup.
Aston is such a cool body style.
Oh boy,
I love it. It's really a neat looking car. And Kevin Buckler and his group does such an awesome job. I mean, he is the ultimate multitasker. Works tirelessly. He and his wife Deborah have got a great organization there, and he works every angle. He's totally into the business-to-business aspect of his team partners and supporters, and gives them 1,000,000%.
Here's the 7th place car in class, Cooper McNeil. I believe he's a junior now at University of Colorado. I'm sure Ralphie, the Buffalo, the CU mascot, is on a decal somewhere on that race car.
One thing that we haven't talked much about is in GTD and in the PC class, all of these cars have to have at least 2 silver drivers. That's the Pro-Am category of drivers in their car, and there's also a minimum drive time they have to do, which is 4.5 hours in this 24-hour race. So I think what you're seeing a lot of is these guys getting their time early, so that means that the car is qualified for getting points, and then they can put their goal, their pros in the car at the end of this to try and finish it off and get the best result.
Here's a look at the GTLM battle. Magnussen, Beretta, and Tandy. Corvette, Ferrari, Porsche. That's the way we roll in the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship. We'll be back to Daytona. Welcome back live to Daytona, just in time for our 6th full course caution of the race. And there is the reason why. The 51, not sure if this problem suffered by the Aston Martin, the 007 GTD car, is related.
I bet it was.
Serious right front damage.
I got a feeling one of them may have got looped and they hit each other.
Both have significant impact.
Yeah.
That front right tire is completely not folded under, but pretty wrecked. And the front of this Ferrari 51 is not doing well. It's as they come out of turn 6, heading up onto the banking. There's a ton of radiator fluid there. The front of the Ferrari in bad shape.
Francois Perraudot in the Ferrari, and this is Brandon Davis in the Aston Martin.
just before the break. We were just talking about how strong, how solid the car was. But remember, the nature of GT cars is that they're not easy to work on when you get significant structural damage. What's beautiful about prototypes and
They're
Formula
modular.
cars, they're modular. They're like a big Lego
They're designed
set.
for it.
These cars, you know, you have a clonk like this. I mean, obviously the Ferrari's total right now with the front damage on that, with all the radiator brake master cylinders and everything. That's gone. But good to see that Francois is okay. We will, I'm sure, be trying to ascertain who has the blame.
Let's ride with Brandon Davis and see what happened.
This is into that corner. Oh, there you go. Man. So the 81 and the 51 had obviously got into it, and the 51 just drove right into the side of Brandon Davis. That's unbelievable. We saw that several times last year.
Yes, we did.
And Francois was doing exactly what Francois, rather, just when he pulled in there, it was just terrible. I mean, he pulled right into the middle of the track.
What could you be thinking?
I mean, there's no way. And for Brandon was online. There was absolutely no drama for Brandon at that moment. That was a zero risk situation.
Yep.
And then the Ferrari, that happens all the way through races all around the world. And Francois pulled in. I mean, it's not just financial. There's a couple of $100,000 we just witched there. But to start off the season like this, I bet Kevin Buckler's just, I could just see his aorta pop.
Yeah, that's the pole-sitting car, the 007 that got involved here. So here we see it. The 81 and the 51, I think, must have got together. Watch this.
It's like Perotto never looked to his left into oncoming traffic.
I'm sorry, 100% a mad move. That's when there's no communication between the brain and the hands.
The only thing I can think is that he thought he could maybe do a quick acceleration move, had it in a higher gear, and just didn't get out of the way quick enough. But either way, he should have just sat still.
Think he was going to spin the rear around, do a little kick turn?
Well, just go quicker than he went.
Yeah. No need to. No. We can't justify that move in any way. It took someone out. Thank goodness that's a 55-mile-an-hour corner. Relatively, but that just shows you the impact there at 55, 60 miles an hour as you go through the left-hander there in third gear. Oh gosh, that whole team has been running so well.
Yeah, the car's been extremely fast. 5th consecutive pole for James Davison here this weekend, coming off the back of last year. Here's Kevin. Let's get down to Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin, that's stupid.
I mean, I don't even know what to say. I don't know who that guy is, Francois something, but I mean, we have our...
He's Italian.
Yeah, our race is on the line. It's obviously on his side. How can you not see us coming in there? We're running for the lead. My God. Brandon had a great drive. Christina was going to get back in. You know, we had a good shot here. That's just ridiculous. I don't know if he's been here before, but they got to be real careful and stuff like that. That was just... no excuses. No excuses. We're all really, really heartbroken. We worked for a year for this.
Yeah, that sums it all up. Well, Kevin, really sorry about that.
Yeah, the amount of effort. If you ever laid out a map of how everything comes together to be here, when it starts with the preparation of the cars and the crews, and it all comes there, and you think, oh, it's just a car out of a race, but it's an immense effort. And
Just
to see it all
it.
go wrong because
So
of
right,
someone's
Calvin.
decision here.
As he turned in, no race, boom. I mean,
Ferrari just pulled into me on the racetrack. Heavy hit.
That's Brandon Davis, and that was Kevin Buckler's reaction. And just for the record, Francois Perotto is French, not Italian. So, 2 dreams. I'll have to wait for another day. We'll be back to Daytona. Welcome back to Daytona. The temperature continues to drop. Now 52 degrees. The wind has died down. Supposed to be 39 overnight, which will add a whole new layer of concern as these teams and drivers continue here at the 53rd Rolex 24 at Daytona. Weather just one of the many challenges, one of the world's great endurance classics. I'm Bob Varsha with Calvin Fish and Justin Bell. Jamie Howe and Andrew Marriott down in the pit lane. At 10 o'clock Eastern time, a little over 30 minutes from now, we'll say good night from Daytona. We'll be back at 7 a.m. Eastern tomorrow to watch the sun come up, bring you up to date with all the highlights of the race to that point, and then take you all the way through to the conclusion of the race and hear from the winners here at Daytona. All of it here on Fox Sports 1. Sixth full course caution of the race thus far. After a pretty heavy incident between Brandon Davis and his Aston Martin and Francois Perraudot in a Ferrari. Stewards will be looking at that incident, and we'll see what results.
You could sell tickets for that seat, Bob. You could have a good sit looking out the back of that Audi pace car. We'll take another look here now at the Brandon Davis Ferrari crash as they come down into turn 6. He is completely in control. He sees the Ferrari. There's no danger to him until the Ferrari pulls across his bows. A traumatic end to both of their races.
Every time I look at it, I keep clinching, hoping he'll get by, you know, looking for a different result. But it won't change for Brandon Davis and the TRG AMR team. Let's go to Jamie Howe.
Well, Joey Hand climbed out of the number 01 machine from the race lead. Joey, transitioning back into prototypes for you for the full season, what has it been like so far?
Well, it's been pretty easy. You know, I'm really proud to be part of this Chip Ganassi with Felix Sabates Ford-powered team. You know, I mean, I've been here a bunch of times with these guys, 4 or 5 times I've driven with these guys, so it's easy just to slide back in and, as I say, get comfy. You know, and it's been a good week. We had our ups and downs, but we got the car right for the race, which is really the important part. And you know, we could just go out there and run laps. I mean, it's nice when you're out in front and you can set the pace. A couple of times some guys got up on me, but otherwise it was pretty good.
You're barely even glistening right now. How comfy is that race car?
It's pretty comfy. I always tell the guys, when the car is good, I don't sweat a lot. When it's not so good, you'll know. So I'll be huffing and puffing, I'll be sweating. But the guys did a really good job because we were up and down, but we found our way just at the right time for Scott to qualify in a good spot. And the car is really good. We can tune it in the cockpit a little bit and just drive it around, you know, and that's the kind of car you need here. But it's not because of lack of work. These boys really work hard here at Chip Ganassi, and the Ford guys done a great job with this engine.
So when you get out of the car from the lead, it's time to unwind. What do you do to calm yourself down and get ready for your next stint?
Well, anybody knows me knows I like to eat. So first thing is I'm gonna eat. When I'm full, I'm happy. So I'm gonna go get something to eat and take a shower, wind down a little bit, maybe get a massage from one of our physios, and just chill a little bit, and then wait for my turn. I think I get that fun early morning 4 a.m. stint again, which is kind of my thing around here.
What does a race car driver even have for dinner?
What's that?
What does a race car driver even have for dinner?
You don't really want to know. I eat anything. I'll eat a hamburger. I'll eat whatever's there. But tonight's probably gonna be some chicken and some pasta to replenish the body, and maybe half a peanut butter and jelly.
All right. So when he's not full, he's happy, and when he's not sweaty, he's happy. Go so much, Joe. Thank you.
I wonder when the last time a racing driver at Daytona was told he was glistening. And as an old friend from my running days, Barry Brown used to say, when it comes to eating, hey, you get the furnace hot enough, it'll burn anything. So as long as you're busy. Don't forget, overnight from 10 p.m. until 7 a.m. Eastern Time, you can follow the race streaming live at IMSA.com with our colleagues from IMSA Radio. You'll also see it on Fox Sports Go. If you have that app, if you don't, download it. And then once again, tomorrow morning, Sunday, 7 a.m. Eastern, right through to the end of the race and beyond, we'll be here on Fox Sports 1. The top 8 cars in the running order are all prototype class machines, then 2 PC cars, then 7 GTLM machines, another PC, 1 more GTLM, and then the GT Daytona parade. They line out behind the Audi safety car, and we get set to go green, entering the final half hour of our coverage here on Saturday at the Rolex 24. Back live at Daytona, the O2 car, target machine for Chip Ganassi Racing, is in for a touch-up before we go green here after our 6th full course caution. Tony Kanaan remains at the controls, and he remains 7th among the prototype cars.
Importantly, back on the lead lap. Remember, they had that trip to the garage, went a lap down. So again, as we said, under these caution procedures, if you play it smart, you can get a lap back, and they've got him serviced. So he's not right up with the pack, but he is on the lead lap here.
And it was actually a little bit more than regular service, guys. When they were in here, they went ahead and changed the nose on the car as well. The team had one out over the wall and ready. It was a very quick fix. They just had to remove the old one, put on the new one, but it was a little bit of extra time in pit lane.
Well, speaking of picking up laps, but very early in this race, the GTLM factory Porsche, car number 912, went 7 laps down with an alternator issue. And my colleague said at that time, you can make that up. And they have darn near done it. They are now 1 lap down to the class leader after some hard driving by Frederick Makowiecki and his teammates.
Well, the key is if you're going to have a problem, you want it early. You don't want to go down 5 laps with an out of run, but if you go down 5, 7 laps early, get enough yellows, you can be back in the game. Remember the 10 team, I think, made up 8 of 9 laps that they were in deficit here back in 2011. And it was only the Ganassi team who kept the 02 car out that year, as I recall, precluded them from getting back on the lead lap. Otherwise, if they'd done the normal thing, they would have, in fact, got all of their laps back. Remarkable.
Every year we see someone on their page back who runs out of time. As we take the green again.
Sebastian Bourdais in the number 5. Mustang sampling. Corvette Daytona prototype. Under attack from Ricky Taylor.
3 Corvettes at the front of this field, Bob, right now.
Another car turned around. No pitch. No. You do not have a frontal one there.
More contact among the PC cars and debris being kicked in the air by the GTD machines.
Ryan Sellers had to take evasive action there in the number 17 Falcon tired Porsche. Look at this.
For the lead.
Ricky down the inside. That's
the outside of the king. That's
boy.
Sorry, outside. Yeah.
That's
that
right.
was discretion, the better part of valor.
Yes.
There.
Exactly.
Ego there. I mean, you say race car drivers have ego. I don't think any pro wants to be passed on the outside of the king. You're going to stick your nose in there and take all the way.
Well, that was the scene of our GTD. Yeah, last year the GTD finish took place right there.
His chuff there going out onto the banking.
One thing Wayne Taylor told me, he said, look for us if we've got cool conditions. This car seems to come alive. Remember Petit Le Mans last year in the nighttime hours? They just took off from everyone. The car really is strong. Something about their setup, he said, it just works.
Oh, the 11 is off. He have help, or has he got a mechanical problem? Well, we understand he was punted. To see if we could find out by whom. Meanwhile, the battle continues up front.
Sebastian Bourdais stretching his legs out through the bus stop. Ricky's just inside the tow zone there, I think, a little bit, Calvin. He's not being dropped by Sebastian, but remember, nice clear track for these guys. The temperature's perfect. This is wonderful.
Let's see what happened.
No.
Tipped around by the 07, it looked like.
Yeah, you know what? It was the 11 cars.
Aboard the number 3 Corvette, down into turn 1 on the restart.
Oh boy, it gets messy. The Corvette's a bit in the that's how tight it is.
How does anybody get through there?
It's like a pinball. You're getting battered around in there. When you see it in slow motion, you see how many cars are actually making contact, even though they're avoiding the main
this
scene.
This is big news here.
Yeah, the defending series champs in that class.
Colin Brown now behind the wheel. I think he may have a left rear down, possibly. It's
looks
hard
like
to see in that shadow.
Something's flapping around.
Yep. Certainly seeing a vibration on the rear bodywork, and yeah, I think that left rear is definitely flailing a little bit.
Yeah, he
wonder
took
if
to
he
the
got
apron.
clipped.
Yeah, he must have done in all that. Very hard not to, because everyone is reacting to what they see as, and then they're reacting to the people in front and behind. So very tricky.
Key is you got to slow down enough not to do major damage to the bodywork, because that's just going to cost you an awful amount of time. Here we see the battle for the lead heating up. Ricky Taylor right in the drop of Sebastian Bourdais.
Michael Valiente in the 90 has dropped back a bit.
Yeah, these two running a very fast pace right at the front there. Tell you what, great officiating there from the guys in the tower just next to us, because they could easily have gone yellow on that, and I'm glad they just held back, took a 5-second count probably, and great job, guys.
Play on.
Really good. Keep the game going. Sebastian and Ricky streaking down into the tri-oval here. The cars look magnificent out there.
And they make such a great noise.
They really do.
He's taking it really deep on the brakes there. You can see a lot more heat into those front rotors, which is pretty normal, but you want that pretty balanced. I mean, these carbon brakes should go 24 hours without a stop. And meanwhile, the core Autosport car has been in, Jamie.
That's right, and it was the left rear they had to replace, but they did go ahead and make the smart decision to do all 4 of these Continental tires as well as top them off with fuel. And I'll tell you, Colin did a great job bringing that car home, not getting any body damage on it.
Yeah, he just found the right balance between speed and safety, and his crew chief was probably telling him, no rush, no rush. If you come in too fast, we're going to have to change body work. If you don't, but look, Ricky's right up there. He'll have lifted off a little there, Calvin, to try and get a nice clean run out of turn 6, which you see. Oh, nice prediction, Justin. And he's pulling up on him, coming through NASCAR 1-2. Sebastian, though, it's very easy for him to hold the inside line all the way down the straight there. Getting past him into the bus stop will be a little tougher.
He's going to pick up the draft big time right here, so he should really close up into the brake zone, but probably not far enough up to him to make a move to the inside.
So now you have a recalibrate, you set yourself up, get on the power fraction earlier, but Sebastian was spot on there, very hard. You're not dealing with a rookie up in front there. Ricky is going to push as hard as he can, try and keep some pressure. Try not to let Sebastian get out of that sort of tow rope zone that you always look for as a driver. If someone gets just 3 seconds ahead, 2 seconds ahead, you never really, it's harder to pull it back.
Bourdais had a much more shallow line through the second right-left of that bus stop chicane. And he was on the button immediately.
Oh, Ricky's so good under brakes into turn 1.
Deep in there, isn't he? And I'll tell you what, I also noticed coming off of turn 6, it seems like the number 5 car, we saw earlier in this race with Christian Fittipaldi struggling to get off that corner. It's very bumpy there, so I wonder if they're not quite getting the rear end hooked up well enough to get the launch onto the banking out of turn 6.
Checking the other leading cars in GTLM, Nick Tandy, the factory Porsche 911. There you see the gaps through the trailing 4 cars in class.
You can see more of a gap on the scoreboard than you do in real life there, Bob.
That's right.
That's literally separated by a blade of grass.
Yeah, Magnussen seems to have been in this car forever.
You're right.
Tell you what, Nick Tandy is definitely a star. He came over here at the end of 2013, won the Petit Le Mans. I mean, it had made the odd appearance, but he won that race with the Falcon Tire team. And last year, full factory effort here. And he's under consideration. Right now, the Porsche team have not made their announcement about who's going to be in that 3rd prototype at Le Mans next year. And Nick Tandy is in the frame, as well as Michael Christensen and Frederick Makovecki, who's also running here this weekend. So those boys are waiting for the nod.
Checking the PC standings as we approach the top of the hour. Alex Popov in the number 8 Starworks machine. Those beautiful martini colors on the car. Popov from Venezuela has a long history with the Starworks team and team owner Peter Barron.
Remember, that car had numerous spins in the early going. Renger van der Zande, I think, had a couple. Alex had an off in the early going of his opening stint, so they've recovered nicely.
In fact, I don't think there's been a car in PC that hasn't at some point gone round or been at a little dancing action.
Yeah,
so
it's been the action class for sure.
So we watched the, who is that?
It's the 02, I believe.
02 going around the outside. Tony Kanaan doing his best. His lap times are fractionally slower than the other cars out there at the top of the field, but
Popov hits the pit lane. And here is the GTD leader, Dominic Farnbacher.
Not sure why Popov's coming in. He's only got 6 laps on this stint, so.
As he picks up something. There's some debris out there, recall, after all that argy-bargy, as you like to say, down in turn 1. Maybe some out on the chicane, too. Dominic Farnbacher has a small lead over the second place car in class, Bill Sweedler in the Ferrari, and Dion von Molke in the Audi R8. Back at Daytona, still have a few minutes left before the top of the hour when we'll sign off for the evening. We could see fireworks before the end, you never know. As you can see, the infield is packed, it's party time. And it'll last all night long. Let's check the leaders in each of the classes. Taylor Brothers with Max Angelelli leading right now. Recall the 5 was in the lead before we left for commercial. We'll update you on that situation. In prototype challenge, Mirko Schultes, Ringer van der Zandt, Alex Popov, Mike Hedlund, and Felipe Albuquerque. From Star Works in the GTLM class, Jan Magnussen going to have to get out of the car at some point. You can only drive 14 hours in this race.
4 in any 6.
That's right. Antonio Garcia and Ryan Briscoe in the leading GTLM car as well. And here are the GTD class standings. As usual, tremendous mechanical diversity. A lot of racing still to go.
Forward here with Ricky Taylor, and he has the lead now, and this is how he got it, coming down into the bus stop chicane as Sebastian Bourdais up front. You can see he gets in a little bit too late, locks up the tires, has this shortcut here, has to come to a complete stop. You're going to see Ricky Taylor here from his onboard, Justin.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't that close to give Sebastian too much pressure, but, you know, the pace they've been running, Sebastian locked up. The regulation state right now, Sebastian Bourdais on the right-hand side of the screen would have had to stop, make himself come to standstill, and then under his own instructions get himself going. But it's certainly given Ricky a nice little breather to get a little space on the rest of the field.
His chest will be a little pumped up. I mean, it's not often. I mean, he can look at that as well. I forced him into that error. Certainly he'd have been looking in his mirrors and putting the pressure. Ricky was putting the pressure on Seb, and very rarely do you see Bourdais make a little mistake like that.
Yeah, payback will come around maybe later on.
Early days.
But very nice, you know, very important not to touch anything as you go through. The bus stop is if I took our viewers through it in a road car, you go, oh, it's not that much. It's a little left, a little right, it leads on the banking, but it's very severe when you get off the curbs. And actually, we were shown by IMSA great photographs of the inside of those curbs. There are little lips. You can do damage to the car, especially if you run at slow speed. So that's why people, you know, you touch them, but you don't want to hit them too hard.
It's a great corner when the car's working. It's a nightmare when the car's try to switch ends on you.
It really is.
It's really fun if you can get some flow through there and the car settles down and you get back to the power early. Really cool corner.
We were talking earlier about the difference between the 10 and the Bourdais car. It was interesting. The 10 has really good mid-corner grip, and it looked like Sebastian's car was pushing out, so we're starting to definitely see differences in the way the cars are handling.
There's the number 7 from Star Works, currently running 8th, both in the prototype class and the overall, currently in hands of Indy 500 champion Ryan Hunter-Reay. Andrew Marriott is standing by with one of his teammates.
I certainly am with the Porsche factory driver Brendan Hartley. Is having a bit of a weekend off from Porsche. Are you enjoying this, Brendan?
Yeah, I love coming back to Daytona. It's my third time here. Actually, I'm yet to finish the race, so that's the goal today. We just dropped a couple of laps with one of my teammates had a bit of a spin, went down a couple of laps, but we're still smiling. There's still a lot of hours to go. So yeah, we'll see.
What's the news with the Porsche? You haven't driven the new 919 yet, but everyone's saying it's a step change from the previous car.
Yeah, it's an evolution. It's a brand new car, but we have the same concept. So I'm yet to drive it. I heard a lot of good things coming out of the factory. We've had a good amount of miles put on the car, which is, you know, we're in a much better place than we were at the beginning of last year. I'm sure our competitors have been working as well, but you know, we won't know until the first race or the first test where we are, but we're we've been working hard. We've been working hard.
So the dream must be to win Le Mans.
Sorry again?
Yeah, the dream must be to win Le Mans.
Yeah, obviously that's the goal, but we respect our competitors too. You know, it's going to be a tough race as every other year.
What are you hearing about that Nissan?
Actually, I know very little. I saw a few spikes.
The engine's definitely in the front.
Yeah, I saw that, but it looks like the Batmobile from, I don't know, 95 when I used to watch Batman. But it's great. I mean, I know nothing about the car. They haven't launched it yet, but it's fantastic to have another manufacturer on board.
Jamie Howell now.
Patrick Calais waiting for his turn to get behind the wheel of the number 911. Patrick, you're one of the defending event winners here. What was learned last year that's helped this team so far today?
Actually, the biggest point is to stay out of trouble because there is so many incidents in the beginning. And last year, honestly, we have no contact, nothing. For the moment, we have still a little bit of contact and we are a bit lucky. So we have to keep pushing, but stay in control and stay out of all the trouble that can happen on this track.
As a driver, how difficult is that for you to know that you have to be careful out there?
Yeah, it's strange because we have to push maximum, but especially here with all the yellows, the biggest point is to stay in the lead lap with a good car for the end of the race. Honestly, it was our strategy last year, works pretty good, but we don't have the best car at the end of the race. We win the race, but this year we will try to have the best car as possible because for the moment we need some top speed to compare with a Corvette. But if we keep a clean car without any problem, I think we have a chance.
What will be the plan now going forward with driver changes? Will you double or triple stint?
We go for double. I think Nick will beat in around 40 minutes. And then we go for a double normally if there is no yellow. Maybe triple to give some rest to Mark, we will see.
Well, getting back to the LMP1 Porsche and the upcoming Le Mans event, we understand testing of the new car. You may have seen pictures of it on the internet. Makes the folks at Porsche very, very optimistic about the 2015 season.
Well, they finally got that victory at the end of the season, so hats off to that team. I think they're really going to go after the championship this year with the lessons they've learned in their first year back at the top class in their World Endurance Championship in Le Mans, of course.
You know, as we watch Ricky Taylor in the 10, I reckon, Calvin, going into the night, let's have a little prediction. We're going to be off air for a few hours, but people are going to be following us online. There's so many good drivers. The teams are so good up at the front end of this field. I think they're going to all try and hold the pace without risk until the early hours, till daylight comes. You can lose the race during the night, you're not going to win it. That's my forecast.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing they're trying to do is really time out. They're probably already between one or two of their driver lineups figured out who's going to finish this out. So you have to start to back time the race in terms of your stints. So you keep your finishing driver in good shape, make sure he's got some good rest, and then determine whether he's going to do a double, a triple, or more at the end of this thing to try and win the race tomorrow.
And of course, PC's been such an active class. It has been the class of action in the wrong way most of the time. I think people are going to have to calm down, put their best, strongest night drivers in. You know, they're going to do long stints, they're going to get it through, but again, they're going to be looking for the finishes. But you're not going to be able to take much more beating. These cars have had a rough time.
And we are not yet 8 hours, not even at the 1/3 mark of this race. Who will still be standing come dawn on Sunday with an awful lot of racing yet to go? Be sure to join us at 7 a.m. Eastern Time here on Fox Sports 1.
What do you think, Calvin? GTD, how are they going to do during the night? I think, I mean, again, you can see the Vipers are looking very strong out there. Ferrari with Bill Sweeler, Townsend Bell, they're lying in 4th place right now. We're going to see a lot of movement in this class overnight. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I mean, this class is superb. I mean, we look at it as the 4th of the 4 classes in the series, but it's really phenomenal. When you look at the 2 drivers out there right now leading this race, Dominic Farnbacher, Mark Goossens, and the 2 Vipers, they're the best in the business. I mean, they came from GT Le Mans last year. You got Shane Van Gisbergen, Aussie V8 superstar here, running with Alex Job right now. So there's some superstars in this category. It's going to be a great battle that literally went down to the wire last year, Bob.
It's a great thing the fireworks are going off, Bob, because I was just about to say GTLM overnight is going to be more fireworks. This is like cage fighting when you look at GTLM. They are on each other every time they can. The best manufacturers in the world driving cars that we would all love to own and get the chance to drive in. So Porsche, Corvette, Ferrari, BMW, it's just going to be an amazing night.
But unlike a prize fight, which ends when somebody can no longer fight, this one will go all the way to the end of the 24 hours. 16 prototype cars enter the race. Half of that field, 8 of them, have already had a shot at the lead. 21 lead changes thus far. It's going to be a long and exciting night. We'll have all the highlights for you when we see you tomorrow morning, beginning at 7 a.m. here on Fox Sports 1. The party's just beginning.
Yeah, and if those of you that stay up all night watching on IMSA.com or Fox Sports Go, if you could please drop Calvin and I a really nice long tweet at around 5:45 tomorrow morning Eastern time, so
I'm
we
on
know
the
what's
late
been going
shift,
on.
mate.
Oh,
I'm
you're
on
on the late shift.
Yeah,
oh,
that's right. Calvin's got a tea time. You and I are going to be here.
I could sneak in 9 holes in the morning.
All right, then, if you could
up.
blow Calvin's phone up so he gets woken up at the same time as us. What we're seeing now, just watching that Porsche behind the Corvette, this is the pace they're running. Just such exciting stuff.
This sort of action is why the drivers want to be here, Bob. I mean, it's just such a great race when you get into a rhythm, and this is really where the race is settled down. You kind of feel the traffic out, and it's literally on sometimes on every corner of the race car, every quarter you're in a pack. But you settle down and you just feel where the cars are. You don't have to see them, you can just feel them around you. It's really a lot of fun.
Coming up next here on Fox Sports 1, live coverage of Monster Energy Supercross from Oakland. So stand by for Ralph Shaheen and the gang. Once again, our Rolex 24 coverage continues Sunday, beginning at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, straight through to the end of the race beyond. All of it here on Fox Sports 1. Thanks for joining us here on day one of the Rolex 24. It'll be a long night, and then we will see you tomorrow. For our entire Fox Sports gang, I'm Bob Barsha. Have a great evening.